across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. It's the beginning of the week. Stand by for 3 powerhouse news, hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, April the 27th. Here's what's coming up. Keir Starmer's mounting troubles spiral as Speaker Lindsay Hoyle gives the go-ahead to a Crunch Commons vote tomorrow on whether to pursue the Prime Minister for allegedly lying to Parliament. Meanwhile, our gormless government forgets everything else as it fixates on the sickening psychodrama of incompetent Keir's hopeless leadership crisis. Drastic shortages loom as the Strait of Hormuz blockade takes its devastating toll on the world economy, but Labour are lost in Mandelson space, while the Prime Minister desperately pretends that he didn't fib to the Commons. Incredibly, stupid Starmer insisted in an extraordinary interview with the Sunday Times that he can win the next general election. What? The man is in denial. Is that the sort of delusional person the nation needs in these turbulent times? 03444 99 1000. Also on today's action-packed show, after last week's Brighton horror involving 3 small boat migrants who raped their victim with appalling viciousness, I'll bring you shocking cases of leniency towards asylum seekers. Cases that appear to prove there's a 2-tier justice system when it comes to foreigners who break into Britain illegally. Why was an Iranian migrant spared jail after a court found him guilty of rape? Why did an Afghani who sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl in his taxpayer-funded hotel room only get 2.5 years? 03444 499 1000. Plus, calls grow to sack Starmer's human rights lawyer mate Richard Hermer as Attorney General after reports that he insulted military veterans who fought in Iraq and continued to pursue the war crime case against them, even though the allegations of execution and torture were proved to be lies. In other news, why hasn't Nut Zero maniac Ed Miliband got any solar panels on his £1.6 million North London house? Is this guy an epic hypocrite as well as certifiably insane? 03444 499 1000. Also, New Green MP Hannah Spencer goes all puritanical, lamenting the alcohol fumes wafting through the corridors of Westminster Power. So the Greens don't mind if you shoot up heroin or smoke crack, both of which they want to make legal, but they get very pious over politicians enjoying a drink. How deranged is that? 03444 499 1000. Finally, Kinsey Schofield, live from Washington as the King arrives for his state visit and America reels after the latest assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Can Charles repair the special relationship that Keir has halfway ruined? All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. Now, Samara Gill is going to join us in just a second to go through some of the big stories of the day. But before she joins us, let's hear from the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, announcing this morning that the debate into whether or not Keir Starmer misled the House, whether or not he lied to the House last week, will go ahead. Quite a blow to the Prime Minister. Take it away, Sir Lindsay.
Numerous honourable and right honourable members from across the House have written to ask me to give precedence to a matter as an issue of privilege. The matter concerns the Prime Minister's answers to the House about the process for the appointment of Peter Mandelson and related issues. In this case, having taken advice, I have decided to allow the House to come to a view on whether the Committee of Privileges should look at the matter. It is not for me to make any decision or view. Therefore, the Leader of the Opposition will have the opportunity to put the matter to the House tomorrow.
There you go. So, Samara Gill, welcome.
Hello.
That's quite a blow for the Prime Minister. He was hoping to get that shelved. He was hoping to avoid that debate. It will be like a dagger through his pious, sanctimonious heart, because he thinks he's, you know, the kind of white knight in shining armour. How could he be accused of such corruption, of lying to the House? Well, the main reason I think you're being accused of lying to the House, Keir, is this. You lied to the House several times. Everybody knows that. But the fact that Lindsay Hoyle has green-lit this debate tomorrow into whether or not the Prime Minister should be referred to the Privileges Committee for abusing the House by lying to the Commons, that is quite a blow for the Prime Minister.
It's a really serious accusation, actually, to put to Mr. I'm going to tick every box, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm a solicitor, I need to check international law before I do anything, we can't deport anyone, we can't have sovereignty, we can't have this, we can't have that. You know, it's really, really interesting. I feel like he's going to fall on his own sword in this sort of way if he is found or if the vote comes not in his favour, because he's the one who always used to skewer the opposition or the Tory party when they were in power for this sort of thing. So it can't be a double standard. He is going to be, held to his own account. And I think that it's a little bit difficult, this one, because it's kind of tricky to understand what's going on. But put simply, it's about whether he lied or not, as you said, and it's about whether he told the truth to Parliament. And truth is something that's been so used and abused by the Labour Party. They've got this sort of confected way of distorting it all for the public, and hopefully he will be held to account. But I think even you were saying out there, Kevin, out in the just the green room, so to speak, that it won't happen. I mean, the Labour majority, you've got to take that into account.
Well, it's absurd. It's absurd. This is an allegation of corruption, of lying, right? This should not be a question of political partisanship. So he's got a 297 majority of whatever it is, a ridiculously huge majority in the Commons, and of course he's whipped all his loyal serf MPs to do exactly what they're told, which is to vote against the fact that he should face the Privileges Committee. It was the Privileges Committee that led to the resignation of Boris Johnson. Yep. And if you go before that committee, the chances are your days are numbered. But MPs will get the chance tomorrow to vote on whether or not the Prime Minister is referred to the Privilege Committee. In other words, he'll get away with it, but for all the wrong reasons. I mean, it's still, it should be examined, it should be discussed, he should be on the rack for whether or not he lied last week, and he clearly did lie about whether or not the civil service, Ollie Robbins, his predecessor Philip Barton, were put under pressure to rush through the security vetting of Peter Mandelson. There was definite pressure. Everybody knows that. Starmer said at PMQs, you weren't here last week, Samara, but you probably noticed, he said at PMQs last week, there was no question of any pressure being applied. That's a lie.
That is a blatant lie, and it's really a big constitutional issue now. So, you know, the whole vote, that what they'll say is that proper process was followed, even if it was flawed. Pressure was just a normal government urgency, you know, can we do this quickly enough? And also the whole vote is just a political point scoring before the elections. That's what they're going to say. That's going to be their defence. But the reality is that if he did mislead Parliament, he will be expected to resign. This is a big, big point here. And I think that, you know, as you said, yes, Boris Johnson was found under the same committee for much less, in my opinion, honestly, for much less. So I think Keir Starmer's a bit like black mould at this point. He's just sticking in there and he's not going anywhere. And this is typical of Labour leaders. They don't want to give up power easily, and they tell themselves and the public it's for the common good. Well, at this point, lying to us, the taxpayer, the voter, is not right.
Exactly right. Two big stories over the weekend in yesterday's Sunday newspapers. The first in the Mail on Sunday, Angela Rayner, it's now or never. We have to get rid of Keir now or we never will. So she's on manoeuvres, they say, ready to strike to get that man out of number 10 and to get herself ensconced. She's still got that stamp duty problem, but apparently that's close to being resolved. Meanwhile, there's another story. You have to remember, in the Labour Party, you can't have women running the party.
No,
you can't have that.
Forget about that.
So there's this other story that Andy Burnham, who's not even an MP, is saying to Angela Rayner, well, tell you what, little lady, you can be my deputy, and when I'm finished being the Prime Minister, you can have a go, like Gordon Brown and Tony Blair. It's like if I was Angela Rayner, I'm not carrying any can for either of those two, but if I was Angela Rayner, I'd say, listen, mate, last time I looked, I'm the MP and you're not. So if you're lucky, I might make you my deputy, not the other way around. Sorry to sort of broach this astonishing concept, but just maybe Labour could have a female leader.
Yeah, well, that'll be the day, won't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and pigs might fly.
Yeah, well, that's what they kind of
so
say.
Sexist, aren't they?
No, it really is. You know, it's quite interesting. Everyone always... What is all this ruckus about Andy Burnham, King of the North, all this crap?
Go up north. They don't think he's the King of the North. They wish he'd become the King of the South so he could get out of their hair. You go to Manchester, everybody hates him.
Go and knock on any door in the country. Most people won't even know who he is. I mean, it's like... It's quite funny, though, because you've got these two kind of injured people politically trying to fight for the top job. Angela Rayner, she's not actually ready to go because she's still got to actually clear her name. And then you've got Andy Burnham, which, as you said, is not even an MP yet and also not really known. There's a lot of fake fior about him. I mean, that one New Statesman profile that happened on him just fizzled out, and that's because he's not really charismatic and he's not really that popular. I mean, maybe he's popular with a couple of people in the North, but that's about it. So, yeah, Angela Rayner, I think she would actually be their best bet. She's very much closer to the Greens, and she's got a kind of Hannah Spencer-esque type of vibe to her, if I have to say that.
She's got traction. People know who she is.
Yeah.
And she's got an ostensible chumminess about her. People, she's relatable. There's no doubt about that. I think her problem is probably intellectual. Is she across all the topics? She once did an interview with Andrew Neil on TV, which revealed, when she was housing secretary, which revealed she knew nothing about tax, she knew nothing about finance, she knew nothing about the way the city worked, she knew nothing about housing. It was frightening. The level of her ignorance was frightening. So I think she can be some kind of figurehead. But whether or not she can be a proper leader, I think, is for the birds, to be honest with you.
I agree. I think that she always says, well, Churchill didn't go to university, and that's true. We've had some very uneducated...
Oh, I don't care whether they go to university.
Prime Minister. Yeah, that's true. But I agree with you. I think that if she can't even get her own finances in order, people will be asking the question, should she be trusted with the purse of the country? I mean, that's a big question. And I think that she has been tarnished by her tax scandal. There's no doubt about it.
John Major didn't go to university. Jim Callaghan didn't go to university. Jim Callaghan, I believe I'm right in saying, didn't have a qualification to his name.
Well,
but he was a clever guy. I mean, he had his problems, but I think he was a good, decent political operator.
Yeah.
So going to university isn't the point. It's about her intellectual capacity. Getting an Oxford degree doesn't necessarily make you clever. Not going to Oxford or not going to university doesn't necessarily make you stupid. But in her case, I think whether or not she's stupid is the thing we all have to worry about.
Look, being a politician is so different to being highly educated in that sort of way. Or they require a very different skill set to have political prowess and to be educated. And I think Keir Starmer is a great example of having every qualification and education under your belt and having absolutely no political will or having no way of feeling how the public is shifting and going. So I think Rayner in some ways is maybe a little bit more apt to that, but I'm giving her a very, very long runway when I'm discussing her. I just think if that's Andy Burnham and Angela Rayner are the best that Labour's got, I think we're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, just a quick word with you, because we're going to go to Isabel Oakeshott in just a second. But quick word from you on this extraordinary interview that Keir Starmer gave to the Sunday Times yesterday. Basic quote: "I can win the next general election." The man is insane. I mean, he's delusional.
Yeah, I've got some questions about
worrying that, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, this is the running joke. You know how he always goes, "I've got full confidence in Angela Rayner. I've got full confidence in whoever he's going to fire next." This is the typical, like, he really thinks that he can spin something. He's got no power there. I mean, I've been all across the country. I've been to sort of now every protest, it seems, every sort of random election that's been going on. I haven't found a single person that's got any faith in the current Prime Minister, and that's a big, big issue.
Yeah, he's got full confidence in himself. The trouble is no one else has got any confidence in him. Extraordinary, that interview. I mean, it was like the rantings of an absolute lunatic, you know, a deranged asylum resident or something. I mean, he needs a straitjacket if he thinks that. He'll be lucky to be here in the next election, let alone win it. I mean, that's just ridiculous when he says things like that. It makes himself look like a complete fool. You're going to come back at 5 o'clock, Samara. And apparently the word is that the next person that Starmer might chuck under the bus to save his own sorry backside is his Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to join the long and growing list of people whose careers this squirming little man is prepared to ruin. He's ruining all these lives, these people with spouses, with children, with mortgages. Get out of here. No, I'm going to say, no, you haven't got, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Trying to save himself. With all these people being chucked under the bus, the word is that the next big name to be chucked under Starmer's increasingly crowded bus will be Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, at which point he'll say, all these problems, it's not my fault, it's hers. It's just such an unsavoury spectacle, isn't it? Samara, thanks for that. We'll see you again around about 5 o'clock. Samara Gill there. Let's go to break. When we come back, Isabel Oakeshott will join us. So we need to talk about the migrant crisis and we need to talk about what's going on in Belgium. That next. Stay tuned.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team and particularly a director of communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, you may have noticed, due to this programme and due to the excellent work of my next guest, Isabella Oakeshott, our international editor here at Talk, we've been shining a light on the fact that, alarmingly, the migrant crisis is switching more and more from France to Belgium. Now, France, you know, we have these deals. The police patrol the beaches there. I mean, they don't do a particularly good job, but they do stop something like a third, just under a third of the small boats, dinghies and the migrants from crossing the channel. So they do have some effect. Now, if you go just a few miles up the coast to the Belgian coast, then to the beaches of Belgium, there are no cops, or they're certainly not going to stop anyone. So there's this new kind of hassle-free way of getting onto dinghies and migrants in Belgium that circumnavigates the French problems, if you see what I mean. Now, this is escalating. This is getting worse. Well, Isabel has been talking to the governor of West Flanders, a guy called Carl Decalieu, and he's had his views about the new deal that we've just struck with France and how useless it can be. Well, let's welcome to the show Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Welcome, Isabel.
Good afternoon, Kev. Yes, I mean, the poor Belgians, I do actually feel a bit sorry for them, because basically the failure by the French to contain this crisis, to control it, to make it remotely go away, is now affecting their neighbours, the Belgians, and effectively the small boats crisis is creeping down the coast right into Belgium, and on a pretty spectacular scale now. When we spoke to the governor of West Flanders, he said 29 boats have launched from Belgian beaches so far this year. In previous years, there's either been none at all or maximum one or two. So that is a dramatic escalation. They get no money from us British taxpayers to help with this crisis. And, you know, the governor was very frank about what they're facing.
Indeed. Well, look, we've got a couple of clips of your interview with Carl Decalieu. He is the governor of West Flanders, which is the region that covers the northern French beaches of Belgium. So here's Isabel talking to Monsieur Decalieu.
As you know, the British give the French hundreds of millions of pounds.
We get nothing. We get nothing.
We get nothing. You're right. We get nothing.
I was only dreaming about this kind of money to do something. But okay, if you see the results year after year, new records.
Exactly right. Yes, 600. Well, we've already given them £700 million last week. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood triumphantly trumpeted the fact she's done a £662 million new deal for the French to carry on, no doubt, not stopping the boats. But Carl Decalieu there, Isabel, pointing out that Belgium gets nothing. But he's also pointing out he can't quite understand why we're giving France so much money when we get nothing out of it because the migrants keep coming to Britain.
Yeah, I loved it when he said that, because it just summed up what we in Britain know.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
nice to know that we're not the only ones thinking this. You know, the Belgians are looking at the deal that we've just done going, are they insane? You know, what exactly are British taxpayers getting for their hundreds of millions of pounds? And, you know, you said that the French gendarmes are stopping around a third of boats. I think I've said before, I'm really interested in interrogating that figure because I wonder whether if it's actually boats rather than, I'm pretty sure it's boats, not passengers. What they're actually doing, insofar as they're doing anything at all, is only stopping boats that have between 15 and 20 or less passengers on board, and those are typically in the inland waterways, the kind of canals that get to the bigger launch points. So they may be impeding those small so-called taxi boats that go down to the big launch points. But the idea that those migrants who don't make the journey successfully on that occasion somehow disappear and don't ever try again is complete nonsense. They may be thwarted on that occasion, but they're not then detained and deported. They're just released to have another go.
Exactly right. What is clear is we're getting terrible value for money, as Monsieur de Caillou pointed out. He also flagged up to you his fears, because this is a big tourist area, and just as they do in northern France, the migrants more and more are gathering in the sand dunes and the areas behind the beaches. Monsieur de Caillou is very worried about the effect that will have when tourists come to the beach. Here he is.
The most of the people are coming from the camps in France.
Yeah.
That's why I also asked it some weeks ago to close the border. But of course, that's the politicians in Brussels are not happy about it. But I think we must do more and more controls, because we know the most of the people are coming from France. I'm very concerned because we have only a small coastline. And when the weather is good, in July and August last year, we have 8 million one-day tourists. So it's the full touristic season. I don't want to see pictures with small boats who are going through our waters with surf planks, with swimmers next. It's really not an issue. And if then something happening, it's a disaster. We must really avoid that.
I mean, Isabel, we should not get deflected from the fact that it's still a serious crisis in France. You know, last year, 45,000 migrants came across the Channel illegally in unlawful small boats. This year, Shabana Mood is conceding that the number is very likely to be higher than that. So we still have a massive crisis in France. But what is clear from your work and from what Monsieur de Caillou is saying, Carl de Caillou, the governor of West Flanders, is we have a burgeoning serious problem growing by the day in Belgium. And if we don't do something about this, this is only going to escalate this already massive crisis.
Well, then it'll spread also down to the Netherlands. And, you know, before we know it, we've got crises on multiple fronts. Of course, they all have to sort of move in the same direction ultimately, because the smugglers don't want to do massively extended routes. That's more expensive and more dangerous. But what has happened here is that the French have allowed this to spiral so far out of control that it's able to cross borders as well. And I thought Carl de Caillou was very interesting about his fears and his determination to prevent the kind of sprawling, tented encampments that we've seen in Dunkirk taking root in his country. In Belgium, he and his colleagues have a zero tolerance approach to any tented camps. So basically, he told us that within the last week, someone attempted to form the beginnings of a camp. He said there was a group of about 10 tents. They absolutely cracked down on that. They were removed forthwith. And he said, basically, you know, if you don't stop these at the start, it absolutely mushrooms. But you know what? The French, if they wanted to, they could clear that camp in Dunkirk tomorrow. They've got a really good army. You know, the French armed forces, I'm afraid, are probably significantly better resourced than our own. And they've done it before. They cleared a huge sprawling encampment near Calais before. They could do it again, but they choose not to.
Yeah, exactly right. The French don't want them there. You know, every time you hear a politician, a British politician, say, well, to solve this migrant crisis, we've got to get round the table from the French with the French. At that point, stop listening to them, because there won't be a solution. Any solution involving the French will not be a solution. The French just want to get rid of these people. And by the way, if stupid Britain is balmy enough to offer them 662 million quid along the way. Thank you very much. They'll put it in the bank. Apart from that, no effect whatsoever. I'll guarantee you 100% that this great new deal that Shabana Mahmood has made with the French for another 662 million pounds to patrol their own beaches on top of the 700 million we've already given them over the past few years, it will have no effect whatsoever on stopping the migrants getting onto small boats and coming to Britain. I guarantee you that. We are watching a performative joke. It's a farce. It really is. Can I just get your thoughts on a couple of cases involving asylum seekers, migrants who come to this country? Last week, we got a kind of snapshot of the kind of horror that we can import, or we are importing here, by letting thousands and thousands of unknown young men into the country without documents. We don't know anything about them. We just put them in nice hotels or military barracks around the country. No questions asked. Last week, we got one result of that. 3 asylum seekers, 3 migrants, 2 from Egypt, 1 from Iran, were found guilty of viciously raping a poor 33-year-old woman in Brighton. I won't go into the details. We did go into the details last week and they're distressing. All I will say is this poor woman sobbed in court and said, "These men laughed at me, these men ruined my life." That's how it's so serious and so upsetting. What you'll hope for is a very, very strong sentence for those people. They're talking about 9 years, which means they'll get out in 5. Something like that. Now, here's 2 cases, right? Listen to this one. The family of a teenage girl who was raped by an Iranian dinghy migrant. Now, this dinghy migrant, boat migrant, was 14. He came across as an unregistered solo child. He went on to rape a teenage girl. He went to court in Bedfordshire. And he walked free from court. His sentence was to attend a kind of educational session on the meaning of consent. He viciously raped this girl. His sentence was to attend an awareness course to make sure that he had in future an understanding of consent boundaries. That was his offence. That was his sentence. The family of his poor victims are saying this is soft beyond belief. It points to me to a system of 2-tier justice. If it's an asylum seeker, if it's a migrant, go easy on them. This is the thing we see all over this country. Here's another one. A migrant who kidnapped a 7-year-old girl and sexually assaulted her in his taxpayer-funded asylum seeker hotel room after arriving in the UK illegally. Put on his application, his name is Afsar Safi, 30 years old. He put on his asylum application that he used to work for the Taliban. So that's why he got his application refused. But he goes on to do this, and he, by the way, of course, he's appealing against that refusal. He goes on to do this, to lure this girl into his hotel room, apparently with an apple. Would you like this apple? A 7-year-old girl. He sexually assaulted her, found guilty of this heinous crime. He got 2.5 years. He'll be out in 6 months. This is ridiculous.
What the hell is wrong with our judges? What the hell is wrong with them? Because this is sick. This is not justice that I think any ordinary voter, any well-meaning, well-balanced, normal voter in Britain would consider at all reasonable, anything like the price that should be paid by anyone who commits these heinous crimes. Referring to the 14-year-old, I've got so many questions, but one of them is, are we sure that he was actually 14? Yeah. I would like to know, genuinely, not mucking around here, was he DNA tested or palm tested or any of the other tests that can be done to ascertain his genuine age? Because that's a problem. We've got an awful lot coming in pretending that they're kids. And you know what then they do? They refuse to have tests. And apparently we're too wet to make them have those procedures. They're not exactly invasive. It's kind of like, can we scan your hand, please? So was he really 14? And secondly, I'd like to know how many of these monstrous criminals that are coming over have been rejected for asylum in other countries. I don't actually believe that data is made public or even collected, but I strongly suspect that we are getting the dregs of the asylum seeker industry. I think we're getting some of the worst rejects from across Europe.
And I don't care if this 14-year-old is 14. I don't care if he's underage. He arrived here last June and by September raped this girl. He raped a girl, 14 or not. That is a heinous crime. You cannot not impose a custodial sentence for that. You can't let them walk free and say, well, you'll have to come to some lessons to learn about the meaning of consent. That is not good enough. And I'll just quickly, before you go, Isabel, thank you as always for joining me. I'll quickly read you what this Taliban guy said when he was asked about raping or sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl in his asylum seeker taxpayer-funded hotel room. He had needed an interpreter in court. It went like this. He said, "I like children and she was a child. I asked her where she was going. She said she was waiting for her mother to go shopping. I kissed her to the face. I kissed her out of love for children. Back home, all the people do that."
Right. Oh, brilliant. That's marvellous, isn't it? Well, here, ladies and gentlemen, here's what's called a paedophile, and he is a paedophile who is not going to change his ways.
And he's still in this country and as yet is not deported. 2.5 years for that, for sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl. Do me a favour, Isabel, really. Thank you for joining us. Isabel Oakeshott there, our brilliant international editor. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Prime Minister's human rights lawyer, mate, Richard Hermer. The Attorney General, pressure is growing for him to be fired from his job. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Kemi Badenoch's been speaking about this. She said, what is this government? What is Starmer's obsession with hounding British military veterans? We're talking about more and more SAS heroes are leaving that service because they feel that they could be prosecuted for what they do while they're in action. So there's that. But Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, the calls for him to resign are reaching a crescendo after emails that he sent revealed that he allegedly launched an embittered attack on British soldiers after his war crimes case against them was exposed as a lie. Hermer is reported to have told human rights lawyers involved in the persecution of innocent Iraq veterans that they had done more good for society than the UK's military heroes, who he insisted could never claim to have, and I quote, made a real difference to people's lives. Defending this nation. abroad, could never have made a difference to people's lives. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Hermer. Well, let's talk to a genuine military veteran. He is Colonel Simon Diggins. Welcome, Simon.
Kevin, good afternoon to you.
Now, we have to caveat what we're going to discuss here with the fact that, of course, the Attorney General, Richard Hermer, is denying the seriousness of the allegations in the Telegraph. But if we just refer to what the Telegraph is reporting, as I've just said, they have found emails that back in 2004, following the 2004 Battle of Danny Boy in southern Iraq, that he pursued or was involved in the pursuit of military veterans based on what turned out to be lies, that they had executed and tortured people in Iraq. These were found to be total lies. But when the case collapsed, according to the Telegraph, rather embitteredly, Hermer wrote to human rights lawyers telling them that they had done more good for society than Britain's military heroes, who he insisted could never claim to have, and I quote, made a real difference to people's lives. In Hermer's world, it seems that in his anti-British world, as some people would have it, pursuing troops for fake organisations of torture and execution is the height of probity, according to him. What's going on? Why is this guy Hermer, and why does this government seem to be so obsessed on hounding military veterans, particularly in the case of the Battle of Danny Boy, when they were proved to have done nothing wrong?
Kevin, I think first thing is I'm almost incredulous with disbelief when I've been reading these accounts, because it just seems so completely contrary to what everyone understands the role of the British Armed Forces is. The only thing I can do to try and understand it is to take us back to 2003, 2004 and the opposition to the Iraq War. And the sense then that amongst a lot of people who were basically Labour supporters that this was a wrong war and that Tony Blair had taken us into it incorrectly. And I think on the back of that, they had then decided that anybody who was involved in that on the armed forces side was therefore effectively guilty of a war crime, regardless of whether that individual was just basically doing as they were told, which we are required to do under the law. So they couldn't go after Tony Blair because he was still the leader. What they could go after were the individuals who were effectively the instruments of that action, the armed forces and the soldiers, and they haven't stopped ever since. Whether it be the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, whether it be the persecution of SAS soldiers who've been on operations in the Middle East, that is their view. Their view is that the use of force should be controlled very, very strictly, controlled through Parliament. And if they can't control it through Parliament, they'll do it by effectively wrapping, so rather like the story of Gulliver and Lilliput, and wrapping us up in so many threads of law that we can't actually operate. And I think that's what's going on. It's ideological and basically does not accept legitimacy of the use of force by the British state.
Yeah, that's right. And, he stands accused of being constitutionally anti-British in himself. And as these lies against our military veterans who fought in the Battle of Danny Boy began to collapse, he, according to the Telegraph, wrote to his acolytes in this endeavour to say it was inevitable that some of the Iraqi cases were going to collapse. And he dismissed military fury at this action, this totally unjustified action. He dismissed the fury among the ranks as, quote, venting. That was it. That was it. I mean, as I say, this guy, I mean, he sort of denies it, but he seems to sort of get off on pursuing British soldiers, British troops.
Absolutely. And, I think, what I could have allowed him almost was, we made a mistake. If sometime between 2004, I think 2011 was the last time he spoke on some of these things and said, look, I made a mistake. There'd been a misunderstanding. I now understand that these were false accusations put out by that Mahdi army, that I could do that. But I look at it as a pattern. And I see the pattern of the kind of persecution of the great brave soldiers who fought in the Battle of Danny Boy, through to the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, through to the continued persecution of our veterans. And there's a pattern of behaviour here, which is not something you can just wipe off a mistake. It's an attitude of mind. It's a view of the world, which essentially is inimical to British interests. And I believe his position is completely untenable. How can we have something like that? the Attorney General, as the Attorney General of this country, advising the Prime Minister, part of the conversation with our Chiefs of Defence Staff and the Chiefs of all the other armed forces, effectively a conversation about whether we should go to war or deploy in operations, when his attitude towards how we operate and what we do is so completely and obviously biased. He has to go.
Yeah, he is, as you suggested, Simon, he's just sort of constitutionally against all military action, I think. And certainly as soon as he sees a bunch of soldiers, all he's thinking in terms of them is, will they commit war crimes? And they gather around these accusations of execution and torture by British troops as if they were totally true. They turned out to be total lies. They should have been perhaps a little bit more circumspect, to say the least. Meanwhile, on a more general basis, Kemi Badenoch has written about this, questioning the Prime Minister's obsession, as she puts it, with tormenting veterans. There's a vote in the House today, it's meant to be today, maybe tomorrow, to repeal and amend the Legacy Act, so that those who served in... The point of the Legacy Act was to protect those who served in the Northern Ireland Troubles back in the 70s and the 80s, and it was to protect them from vexatious prosecutions. Well, what's happened is that this government, the Prime Minister and Hermer, they want to overturn that act and make our veterans from Northern Ireland subject to vexation prosecutions if necessary, because for them to be exempted from that, according to Hermer and Starmer, would, of course, drum roll, be incompatible with the Human Rights Act. This is this is sick, isn't it?
It is sick, and the reason it's sick is because there's no equity in this at all. I mean, I'm very proudly served my country, but I have no time whatsoever for members of the British Armed Forces who broke the law. I mean, if they broke the law, then they face the penalty of the law, and that's all of our views from that. So no, I'm not making any excuses for inappropriate behaviour, but this is not inappropriate behaviour. These are soldiers who are basically doing their jobs, who obeyed the law at the time. Often were investigated afterwards. If you shot somebody in Northern Ireland, your weapon was taken off you, and you were treated as a potential criminal suspect right from the get-go. You've then been cleared eventually from that. Your weapon would still have been taken away and maybe held for evidence afterwards. So they have been through process. There has been due law, due process. But the Human Rights Act opened up this whole can of worms, which effectively allowed these kind of retroactive persecutions. And of course, and here's the balance, there's none of that, absolutely none of that, against the terrorists who, let's remind ourselves, of the 3,700 people who were killed in Northern Ireland, 3,000 of them were killed, murdered by the terrorists, the majority of them, the IRA. So they are not being investigated whatsoever. So they're going after the people they can go after, the people who've got records, who've got law, who actually went to the trouble of actually recording everything they did in enormous detail. And that's who have been used. Oh, and here's the real joy. Those individuals who are being persecuted now, they're being persecuted by individuals who are claiming legal aid. I mean, it really is. I mean, it can,
and the government. What's so annoying about this, Simon, is the government's gone out of its way to amend the Act so that the veterans who served in the Troubles, the British veterans, the British military veterans, can once again be prosecuted with vexatious actions. They were protected from that. This government has gone back to the Parliament to try to change that, and that is an absolute disgrace, I think. Simon, I'm going to have to go now, but it's good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Now, the reason I've got to cut Simon off there is I've got to read Lord Richard Hermer's statement. This is from his office, OK, concerning all these allegations against him. Over a 30-year legal career, the Attorney General represented many clients, including British military personnel, such as a British soldier killed by IRA terrorists and injured servicemen in the Iraq War. The attorney always acted with the highest professional standards, and the suggestion Attorney General acted for individuals with the knowledge that their claims were false is categorically untrue. The Telegraph is confusing individual and group claims. The Attorney General had minimal involvement in the Al Sweden speedy claims limited to a small number of hours between 2008 and 2013. The attorney did work on a set of group claims involving a wider range of victims that was ultimately settled by the Military of Defence. The attorney was not involved in the Al Sweeney inquiry. That's Richard Starmer's statement. Let's go straight to break. When we come back, it's the big question of the day. Why hasn't Ed Miliband's house in North London got solar panels on the roof? Eh? That's our next question. Stay tuned.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's talk about Ed Miliband. He's got a big house in North London, quite near where I live, in the Hampstead area, you know, it's £1.6 million. It's like a big semi-detached, about 56 floors, massive place, you know, because he can afford it. And there's no solar panels on the roof. There's no solar panels anywhere. Don't you think there should be, given the fact that he tells us we should all do this kind of thing? Solar panels, windmills in our gardens, heat pumps, all that kind of rubbish. Well, he should do it himself. Let's talk to the author of Not Zero, columnist for The Sun and The Spectator, Ross Clark. Ross, doesn't seem like Ed Miliband knows that phrase, lead by example. He's got this huge house. By the way, I know the area well. It is full of virtue signalers whose homes are kind of walking adverts. Well, not walking adverts, stationary adverts for net zero. Loads of solar panels on the roofs everywhere there. It's full of people who can afford that sort of thing. But no solar panels on his house. Why not?
Well, for some, we could all actually be thankful that he hasn't got solar panels on his roof, because then we would all be paying him a handsome subsidy, of course, to his generate his electricity. Maybe that's the reason he doesn't have them, is because he'd be too embarrassed to be claiming the feed-in tariff subsidy, which, by the way, I admit that I claim, and that I get 70 pence per kilowatt hour for every. You know, for the electricity I generate. When I buy electricity, you know, I'm paying like 30 pence per kilowatt hour. So, I mean, it's an incredibly generous deal. It was back in sort of 2010, 2011. So, yeah, we may be thankful, but you'd think that if he wants to set an example, he would have the panels on his roof. Now, as I understand, he lives in a conservation area in Dartford.
No, but but that conservation area, they have a special exemption for solar
they do.
panels.
Yes, no, I was going to say
The neighbours are all saying, well, that doesn't stack up because we've got them. Why hasn't he got them? Don't forget, Ross, also his constituency home in South Yorkshire doesn't have a heat pump. I mean, this guy is just saying, do as I say, not as I do, isn't he?
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is that Ed Miliband, when he was last energy climate change secretary, he was him who changed the rules, saying you could put them in a conservation area. So that's certainly not an excuse. Does his house face the right way? Well, I know even if it faces east-west, and that wouldn't be ideal, you'd still get a useful amount of electricity generated from your solar panels. So I don't think that's a sort of reason not to have them either. So I don't know why.
Here's a funny thing, Russ. That your paper, The Sun, approached the Department of Energy about the net zero secretary not having any solar panels, and this is what they said. Through our £15 billion warm homes plan with grants and loans, everyone can access the benefits and savings that clean homegrown power can bring, as you have. Why hasn't the net zero secretary afforded himself of this fabulous offer that his government is making?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, this is where solar panels should be going, on people's roofs. If you put them on your roof in association with a battery to, you know, store the energy from during the day to use in the evening, and that's how solar energy should be used. I mean, it'd be more expensive than just buying it from proper. If we had a proper electricity grid that wasn't sort of stinging everybody. But, you know, that's where solar panels should go. And instead, you know, Ed Miliband is plastering agricultural fields with them, taking land out of production. You know, he said, oh, it's all for energy security. He doesn't give a damn about food security, does he? Because he's just using up all this prime agricultural land for solar farms and just riding roughshod over objections from local people in the countryside.
Yeah.
You know, to generate this massive amount of solar energy, which the grid is not going to be able to cope with. You know, the grid can cope with a little bit of intermittent solar energy, but we're getting to the stage of so much masses of panels now operating that we're soon going to get to a situation where, you know, they're generating too much power to be consumed, and what do you do then? You know, the government seems to think it's going to sell it abroad via the subsea cables, but we don't have any storage. You know, we don't have adequate storage facilities to cope with this, you know, massive amount of solar power. So,
meanwhile,
doing us a favour by not having them on his roof.
Well, maybe, but it's certainly it's just massive hypocrisy, and it doesn't do his message any good at all. Ross, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Ross Clark, brilliant columnist at The Sun, The Spectator, The Mail. You can read his work everywhere. Also, he is the author of Not Zero, an excellent book worth reading. Now, Samara Gill will be in after the break to discuss some more of the big stories of the day. Meanwhile, we have much still to come, so if I were you, I'd stay tuned. All that still to come. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Guess who's back in the studio? Samara Gill. Where have you been? I haven't seen you for minutes.
Yeah, I know. I'm like a body with a pulse in this building, aren't I? It's just I get dragged in and out. Now, I do apologise to the audience, but we will be doing fresh stories. There's a bit of a, I don't want to call it an exclusive, but there's a wild day that I had this
well, we're going to go with Samara's been down at this protest that Robert Jenrick from Reform organised. It was to protest about, well, it's a national fuel protest. We'll show you. Well, actually, let's have a look at your sunshine trip to Westminster this morning.
Just see who's exiting. Okay, so it's just a case of more press than people here.
We're going up to the top.
I must say, this is rather awkward. End the war on motorists. There are no protesters here. This lady says it all. What brings you here today? Fair enough.
End of story.
Few words describe the situation.
Come on, Reform!
So, all dressed up on the top.
The biggest national fuel protest in 20 years.
Yeah, all dressed up on the top of a double-decker for a massive protest. Trouble is, no protesters. Now, we could laugh about this. This is Reform UK. This is Robert Jenrick saying, come and protest about rocketing fuel prices. Now, we could laugh about this. In fact, we are laughing about this. Reform must try harder, really. To be fair to Reform, though, this is the situation, I think. They are calling for a protest against fuel shortages or rocketing fuel prices that we won't really feel the impact of for what Darren Jones said over the weekend for 8 weeks. Won't happen for 8 weeks. So in other words, the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, both by Iran and America, will not affect Britain and indeed most of the rest of the Western world for about 8 weeks. So the reason, to be fair to Reform, nobody turned up for their protest is nobody is really feeling the pain yet. But boy, oh boy, they're going to.
Yeah, I think you're totally right here. I think they've almost kind of gotten out of the blocks too early, essentially, with this sort of thing. And yeah, it's really interesting because I think Farage, the whole key to his success has been that he's had his finger on the pulse, on the political pulse of the country for years now, and especially since he re-entered politics just 18 months ago, he's been able to, with every press conference, actually know what the story of the day will be and what is going on. But today was a really missed mark. I thought that, you know, there were advertisements on social media, there was a lot of noise around it. There were 2 protesters there, and one of them was a very loyal listener, actually, to this show. He said to say hi to you. I can't say his name because he's actually standing for Reform.
Well, thank you.
But it was really interesting because it's such a small turnout, and I do think we should look at, you know, what's going on with the Reform support. Are they misreading the mood? Having a protest at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning in Westminster as Reform UK, is that a good thing to do or not? I'm not sure. Is that where their base is? No, I don't think so. Not in the centre of London, that's for sure.
As you say, though, I think they've come to this issue too early. Because the pain is going to become acute. There's no doubt about it. So fuel prices, they've been going up, but they haven't been rocketing. They will rocket. Medicine shortages will get very acute. Food shortages, you'll notice it in the supermarkets. Also, food prices will begin to soar. The effect of the Strait of Hormuz blockade has not properly been felt yet, but it will, as Darren Jones said on the media rounds over the weekend, probably within about 8 weeks. Now, I would say in 2 months' time, if Reform UK staged this protest, there'd be thousands of people there.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think they might reconvene and maybe redo this protest at some point, but I think that you're right. The sentiment is correct, and they are making sure that we brace ourselves for whatever impact this government's horrible policies, as well as what's happening internationally on the geopolitical stage, are going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's the right sentiment, but I think it's we're almost so cozy, and we're used to these really blockbuster performances from Reform and these massive events and huge turnouts and everything like that. So, yeah, maybe it was just sort of the right point, wrong day, but it's certainly an indication of where the support is and isn't, and also how sort of celebrity we've become with our politics and how short our attention span is. You know, it's one issue one day and another the next, and I think that every party needs to adapt to that. The Tories certainly haven't, and now Reform is sort of having a bit of that too.
Sure. Let me bring to your attention a couple of migrant legal cases that I talked to Isabel Oakeshott a little earlier. And they point to me to a two-tier justice system. There's something going on here, that if it's a migrant or an asylum seeker in the dock for a very serious offence, sexual, they seem to get really lenient treatment. I've got two cases for you here. The first is a 14-year-old. Well, he said he was 14. He came over here on his own, on a migrant dinghy on a small boat last June. A few months later in September, he raped a girl at the same school that he was billeted in Bedfordshire. He raped her. 2 counts of sexual assault and rape. He was sentenced in mid-March. He wasn't even sent into detention. He wasn't given a detention. He wasn't incarcerated. He was just sent to an assessment course, or where he would be taught the meaning of consent. No wonder the family of the victim say that is soft beyond belief. And here's another one. A migrant who arrived here, Afghani migrant who arrived here and said he put on his asylum application that he worked for the Taliban, which wasn't a great idea, so he got his application refused.
Oh, really? On the resume.
Well, he's appealing, so it doesn't make much difference, does it? Anyway, along the way, he kidnapped a girl of 7 and sexually assaulted her in his taxpayer-funded hotel room at an asylum seeker hotel. He got 2.5 years for this. He will get out in about 6 months with that kind of offence. 2.5 years. That's ridiculous for what he did. He lured this little girl, into his hotel room with an apple. Said, "Where are you going?" She said she was going shopping with her mum. Well, her shopping trip with her mum was interrupted by him sexually assaulting her in his room. He got 2.5 years. This is ridiculous.
This is beyond ridiculous. It's actually reprehensible. I mean, it's irreprehensible. I mean, I just do not understand how they are allowing this to happen. One is one too many. And just today, we have 2 cases of a very, very similar nature. And the fact that they're not suffering consequences for this, the fact that they're not going into prison for a long time, even this young man, the man who's underage, he should be going to a young offender institution. He shouldn't be given courses, by the way, absolutely on the taxpayer dime, as to what to understand about consent. I'll tell you what to understand about consent. It's yes or no. That's what it is. And I think you've been really onto this very early on. It's this almost sex tourism that we have to talk about when it comes to this sort of thing. I mean, it's
like we're importing a sex crime epidemic. Mm-hmm. With these migrants. And now, at the bottom of this, as I always say, is this sort of cultural divide. These guys, they come from sub-Saharan Africa, they come from the Middle East, they come from Afghanistan, they come from places where you're not even allowed to look upon a woman's ankle, let alone anything else. They find Britain to be, shall we say, a very tempting environment sexually. It's not all of them, but some of them. Because there's a disproportionate amount of asylum seekers and migrants committing sex crimes. So cultural difference, different attitudes to women. This is what he said in court, right? Isleworth Crown Court. He had to have an interpreter, of course, because he doesn't speak English, another cost to the taxpayer, Pashto interpreter. He said, through his interpreter, "I like children and she was a child. I asked her where she was going. She said she was waiting for her mother to go shopping. I kissed her to the face. I kissed her out of the love for children. Back home, all the people do that."
Well, that's straight out of a human rights lawyer's playbook, by the way. You can see that that's exactly how they're trying to find the loopholes as well, even though that's actually sickening to listen to. It is just, I actually want to dry reach at that. It's horrible. But you can see that they're finding those loopholes, which have worked really effectively for a very long time, which is, oh, in my country, the age of consent is 14. Yeah. Or this is normal in my country, etc. I mean, we know that. I'm not going to... Most of these people are absolutely fine and do not have this sexual history, but it's a normalisation, and you're right, a clash of cultures. And also on this side, you know, there's a lot of pornography. Majority of pornography actually features British-looking women, let's just say. And or traditionally British-looking women, or however you want to say it. Basically, I think it's a very poisonous cocktail that we're finding ourselves in the 21st century. And these are people who have paid a people smuggler. They've invested in the dark trade to get over here, illegal migrants. And it seems like that sense of anonymity that you have when you've gone through 10 plus countries then gets transferred onto the streets of Britain. And it's a really, really terrible situation that the country finds itself in with this sort of thing.
It certainly does. Let's move on. I did trail earlier when you were in. You know, old Keir Starmer now for several months has been throwing people under the bus left, right and centre, trying to save his own sorry backside over the Mandelson security vetting saga, the scandal of that. The word is he may be preparing to chuck the ultimate victim under the bus, as in his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, that there may be a massive reshuffle around about the time of the local elections, which Keir Starmer will try to orchestrate in order to say, well, you know, everything that's gone wrong is because I needed to get my ducks in a row. They were all wrong. So it wasn't my fault. It was Rachel Reeves' fault. She's been fired. It wasn't my fault. It was Morgan McSweeney's fault. He's been fired. It wasn't my fault. It was Matthew Doyle's fault. He's been fired, and on the list goes. Rachel Reeves, the ultimate victim, possibly next. Extraordinary.
I mean, can he please get rid of her? Honestly, I'd be a fan of that. No, I think maybe he's actually finally coming to and saying that, you know, she should have been fired a long time ago when it was found out that she lied on her resume and didn't really have the appropriate qualifications to become the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But then again, we've seen the reality of not having the proper qualifications and being somewhat of a DEI hire to look good in Starmer's cabinet and behind him. I think they've had a really textured relationship when you can think about her crying and the stock market then crashing afterwards. I mean, we've never had such a disorganised and incompetent Chancellor. And if she has to go, then I don't think it'll be enough to save him, but it will help the Labour Party get back on its feet a little bit. I mean, who would replace her? That's the question. There's no one in that front cabinet that's actually worked within business or anything like that.
That goes without saying. I mean, the point is that when the local elections come, and as everybody keeps saying, this will not be good for Labour. It looks as if he's working. Don't forget, he had crisis meetings over the weekend in Chequers, and it looks as if he's going to try and throw a kind of blanket over this whole situation by saying, yeah, the local elections have been bad. Yeah, things haven't been going well, but I'm having a massive reshuffle. It'll be the latest of his many resets. This is his shtick. He gets into big trouble, and then he says, I'll have a reset. The next reset could involve the defenestration of Rachel Reeves, as you say. Thank God for that, but whoever we get from Labour won't be any better.
Yeah, exactly. And it will plunge the markets into disarray for sure. I mean, even if temporarily, it's not going to be a good thing. And you're right about Starmer. Even just a couple minutes ago, I'm not sure if you broke this or not, but the Downing Street published the letter that Chris Wormold, the cabinet secretary, he sent it to Keir Starmer in September. I mean, this is already him sort of pushing his main people forward and trying to make sure that he's okay. I mean, the core line is process equals honesty. Well, I'm not sure about that. The translation is you can follow procedure and you can still mislead the people. That's what that actually means. So. Yeah, I mean, he's using the process as a defence. He's not using the truth as a defence here, and that's going to be a massive issue. But anyone's going to have to be pushed towards the bus or towards the train or whatever Keir Starmer's going to use now in order to save him, because I think even when I saw him in Hastings and when he made that speech about Mandelson and what he did and didn't know, he had this sort of dictatorial vibe to him where you could see that he feels unwavering in his absolute want to try and save the country, and that he needs to be here, and that him leaving would be such a horribly disorientating thing for the United Kingdom that it just cannot happen by hook or by crook.
Well, my message to the Prime Minister is, Keir, just bugger off, for God's sake. Just let someone else do it, please, in the name of God, go. Now, one of his other many mistakes has been to destroy the special relationship. He is the world's worst Trump whisperer. It's hilarious the way he's very good at talking the president around. Yes, he's really got the president on side. Yes, he's done a great job befriending Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't stand him. I don't think Donald Trump ever could stand him, but now Keir Starmer, with his I avoided the war posturing, which is nonsense. He never decided to keep us out of the war. He wasn't asked to enter the war. So don't fall for that claptrap, folks. He did not decide to keep us out of the war. He was not invited to join the war. That's as simple as it goes. So never mind that. But what he has done, he's destroyed the special relationship. So my question to you, as the King touches down in America today, in the wake of the traumatic shooting or the assassination attempt at the Hilton Hotel in Washington over the weekend, the White House Correspondents' Ball. So lots of security questions, but the King is still going with Camilla. Can Charles repair the special relationship? I say that at the end of his visit, everybody go, it's brilliant. The King has repaired the special relationship. We're back on track because Donald Trump is saying fantastic things about His Majesty and Britain. And then one day later, it'll go back to the special relationship is in the toilet because the president hates Keir Starmer, right?
Yeah, or even worse, Trump, is all nice to the King's face because let's face it, the King is absolutely not his mother in terms of the diplomatic gymnastics that she was able to pull off. He's not that, and he also cannot not stick his pen in the sort of ink of getting involved politically and putting his weird left-wing wacky views across. Just think of Islam, his green stuff that he wants to bark on about. It's, he's not his mother. He really isn't. And I think he's going into something that is not a routine royal visit. It's a geopolitical stress test with a sort of security crisis backed into it. And let's just see how he performs, because up until now, he's had quite a pleasant reign. He hasn't had to deal with much. He hasn't even had time to make an Easter message for us, may I remind the audience. So let's see what he does. And I think that, Trump might get on Truth Social after and say what actually happened.
Yeah, what will happen is it'll be all, hearts and flowers and friends and shaking hands and grinning and isn't the King great? I love Britain, my mother was British and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then as soon as this tour ends, it will go back to can't stand Starmer, sod the special relationship. It's as simple as that. So the King will no doubt perform some repair work, but it won't be enough. And also, the king isn't the right kind of person to endear himself to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump, hey King, hey Your Majesty, if you're watching, if Donald Trump says drill baby drill, don't say, I think it's a good idea to talk to your plants, don't you think, Donald? Say yes, drill baby drill, okay? Just go along with whatever he says. Politically, the king could not be further apart from Donald Trump, but one area where I completely approve of the king is apparently when Donald Trump disrespected our troops in Afghanistan. Yeah. When he said we didn't really fight very hard, we weren't on the front line, even though we lost something like 400 soldiers in Afghanistan, 400 British lives were laid down. So it was an outrageous thing for Trump to say. Apparently the king had to be scraped off the ceiling. He was hopping mad about that.
Yeah,
and good for the king to be hopping mad about that. And frankly, I wouldn't mind him bringing that up.
Well, let's see if he does. I think, you know, I am pretty mean about old Charlie, but I think that actually he, and that will enrage the members of the audience for me to even call him that, but I am Australian.
Charlie. Green Charlie.
Green Charlie.
Green claptrap spewing Charlie.
The thing is, I must say that of all the people in the world right now, the king, the royal family, is pretty much the last institution that Trump actually respects.
Yes,
and I think that if the king can pull this off, it will be one of his greatest diplomatic achievements. And yeah, I think that he could be the Trump whisperer. The only thing that I kind of don't want Trump to find out is just how little power the king actually has in the United Kingdom, because once that's actually found out, I think when he's come on those state visits, you know, he sees all the pomp and ceremony, and I think he thinks the king runs the show.
Most Americans think the king rules the country, governs the country.
Exactly.
I'm sure Donald's got a handle on the fact that he doesn't, but no doubt in that American way he thinks the king has got a lot more power than he has. None of them understand the king has no power whatsoever. He's there as a figurehead for the government. He's doing exactly what he's told by the government, and let's hope he can do something to repair the special relationship.
I only go off that Truth Social post that Trump made where he said the king would have agreed with me to go into Iran. He did, I believe he did tweet that.
No, he wouldn't.
So I'm just thinking, I think he's in for a little bit of a shock
as to who Charles really is. The king would not have agreed to that.
Precisely.
Samara, fantastic stuff. Samara Gill there, our ace reporter. Next up, we're going to be talking about whether or not MPs should drink in the House when they're at work. Why not, I say. But we'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Should MPs be allowed to drink at work when they go to Westminster? Should they be allowed to have a beer at lunchtime, or a glass of wine, or a bottle of wine, or whatever, or after work? I say, yeah, sure, why not? You know, but Hannah Spencer, the new Green MP for Gorton and Denton, she thinks no, she's appalled by it. She doesn't like the fumes of alcohol that waft through the corridors of power. Unbelievable. I mean, in other words, the Greens are fine, absolutely fine when it comes to shooting up heroin or smoking crack. They want to legalise that, but drinking at work, oh no, we can't have that. We'll talk about that in a little while, but first let's talk about benefits. This is a story that the Spectator magazine broke a couple of weeks ago, but it's getting worse and worse. The details are getting more and more worrying. It is the huge discounts given to benefits claimers, many out of work, many claiming universal credit. In other words, ways to improve their income because they're not earning very much. So if you're on welfare of any kind, either because you're out of work or a sickness benefit, or because you're having your salary or your income topped up by the government, universal credit, then you get these ridiculous sets of discounts. The new ones we're hearing about are beauty parlours, yoga sessions, and something called eyebrow braiding or something. You know, getting your eyebrows, eyebrow threading, you get that for free as well. All of this stuff free. In other words, enticements not to work. If you go onto welfare, if you're on benefits, you get all this cheap stuff, all this free stuff. If you work, you don't. So what would most people decide? I know, I won't work. Unbelievable. Let's talk to spokesman at the Taxpayers Alliance, William Yarwood. William, this is a pernicious system, I would suggest, because it encourages people towards the welfare lifestyle. You know, in other words, if you're on welfare, I think if I want to go to the Tower of London, I'm looking at it just across the river here from Talk Towers, I think it's something like, for a family of 4 ticket, it's about 120 quid. If I want to take my family of 4 and I'm on universal credit, or if I'm on welfare, it's 4 quid or something. You know, it's a ridiculous discount, and this goes throughout the, you know, throughout everything. You know, entry to all sorts of attractions, cheap, as I say, eyebrow braiding, beauty parlours, football trips, and so on and so forth. It's never ending. This is a really bad idea because it makes the welfare lifestyle look attractive. They shouldn't be doing this, should they?
No, not at all. Good afternoon, Kevin. Great to see you. And yeah, I wonder when when was the last time any taxpayers got any discounts for any of these things? Can you walk into a football match or walk into the Tower of London and say, hey, you know, I'm a taxpayer, give me a discount? And they go, oh, here you go, sir. Oh, I'm a net taxpayer, actually. I pay more than I take out. Oh, well, here you go. That never, ever seems to happen. And yet, as we've seen over the last few weeks with the investigation in The Spectator, like you rightly said, and now more investigations happening in The Telegraph and The Sun and elsewhere, what we're seeing is that this system goes even further than we far expected. And also an important point to point out here, Kevin, a really, really important point to point out, is basically that these type of things go far beyond what is seen as like average help for low income working people, whether it's in terms of helping them get to work or helping them get back on the job market. Those two things incentivize them getting back into work. These things right here that we're talking about today incentivize them to stay on the welfare state, and many taxpayers up and down this country will recognise that this is not fair and this needs to change as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it is absurd. As I say, for example, St Paul's Cathedral, £65 for a family of 4. If you're on universal credit or welfare, £4. So you get £61 off. £1 tickets to the Tower of London. If you're on universal credit, they're £37 full price. So you get £36 off. £1 or £37. So as you say, if you go to the Tower of London and say, I'm a hard-working taxpayer who gets up every morning and works hard to put a roof over my family's head and also contributes to the Exchequer, oh, that's 37 quid. If you turn up and say, I'm out of work, I'm on welfare, that's £1. It's just mad.
It's completely mad. And also, I think it speaks to something a lot deeper and actually a lot more depressing, if I might say so. It's the chipping away of the social contract between taxpayers and the state. Taxpayers basically expect to, they expect to work, they expect to pay their taxes, and they expect their tax money to be used correctly. But as we've seen, not just in this story, but in many welfare stories and spending stories in the past, that basically taxpayers are not getting the kind of rewards and indeed the kind of support from the state that they used to in the past. I mean, and also there's evidence quite clearly that the government has prioritised over welfare over in things such as defence. I mean, we've talked before about the ballooning welfare bill, which is going to reach £400 billion of taxpayers' cash by the end of this decade. All the while, our defence budget barely touches over 2% of our overall spending. So governments throughout years, not just the Labour Party, but indeed the Tory Party as well, have made constantly bad decisions on welfare, which has led to situations like this. And actually, I think we have to hold local councils to account for this, because it's local councils who are the ones actually handing out these kind of freebies and these kind of discounts.
And okay, if you're going to offer cheap entry to places like Kew Gardens and the Tower of London, I mean, I don't think you should, but okay, that's not sort of wildly eccentric that is offered. But this is wildly eccentric. People on benefits, universal credit or welfare, are being offered yoga classes. Cheap, free or very cheap yoga classes, eyebrow microblading, whatever that is, and my personal favourite, big discounts on beach huts. Now, if you're on universal credit, fine, you go and enjoy your weekend or whatever when you go down to a beach hut. If you're out of work and receiving unemployment benefit, rather than being in a beach hut enjoying the sunshine and the sea, wouldn't it be better if you're out looking for work?
Yeah, it would be. Although I must say, Kevin, I'm going to quit my job immediately. You've sold it to me. I'm going to go on benefits, do some yoga, get my eyelashes done.
I'm going to get these done. Yeah.
Come join me, Kevin. Just quit right now. We'll go.
I'll see you down the eyebrow microblading centre, William.
Absolutely. But look, I mean, this is not at all helping these people get back into work. What incentive is there for you to go back into work if you're being offered yoga classes? What incentive is there for you to even look for work if local councils say, oh, you know what, let's give you a discount on a beach hut for the weekend where you can take yourself and maybe even your family? Why not? And the problem is who's picking up the tab for all this kind of stuff? It's ordinary hardworking taxpayers who are once again being shown that they are not the priority of this government and not even the priority of the local councils, who of course are doing them over time and time again with endless council tax hikes. And what are they getting for it? Are they seeing their potholes filled? Are they seeing their bins collected? Are they seeing their social services run? Are they seeing their areas being cleaned? No. There's far more important things to do. Local councils need to do schemes to make sure that people on universal credit are available to have yoga classes
and microblading eyebrows.
Exactly, you love that one. It sounds like you want one yourself.
Well, I definitely do. I want to if only to find out what the hell it is. 8.4 million people are now either on welfare or receiving benefits, universal credit. That's 1 more million than January 2025. So vast numbers of people are taking advantage of these fabulous offers, these discount offers. And who pays for them? The people who pay full price. People who are working, taxpayers, workers. So workers, once again, being required to fund people who don't work. And that is pernicious. That is bad for the country. It is obvious. William, good to have you on the show as always. Thank you, mate. William Yarwood, spokesman for the Taxpayers Alliance. What do you think about that? Microblading your eyebrows, discounts for that, yoga lessons, beach huts. For people on welfare, for people on benefits, really cheap prices. I mean, why? Why incentivise the welfare lifestyle? 03444991000. When we come back, we'll talk about Hannah Spencer. She's that new Green MP for Gorton and Denton who won that controversial by-election. She dresses like a fruit salad. Well, she has been criticising her fellow MPs, saying that she doesn't like the aroma of alcohol wafting through the corridors of Westminster Power. Should MPs be allowed to drink at work? Why not? Everyone else is. But Hannah doesn't like it. Meanwhile, of course, what she does like, because it's official Green Party policy, perhaps these MPs she doesn't approve of, if they want to shoot up heroin or smoke crack, Hannah will probably be all for that, because that's an official Green Party policy, isn't it, to make heroin and crack legal. These people from the Green Party. But now we're talking about their piety, their puritanism, and their pomposity, to be honest with you. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
An Iranian migrant who raped a teenage girl doesn't even go to jail, not even detained, no incarceration. Is just told to attend lessons to teach him the meaning of consent. No incarceration, no sentence like that. So no jail sentence. Why did he walk free? And why did another Afghani migrant who raped a 7-year-old girl, or sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl in his asylum seeker hotel room, got 2.5 years? Lucy Connolly, you remember, got 2 years and 7 months, got a longer sentence for writing hurty words on Facebook. I mean, you know, nasty words on Facebook. They weren't very nice, what she wrote, but she got 2 years, 7 months. Meanwhile, an Afghani migrant entices a little girl, 7-year-old girl, into his asylum seeker taxpayer-funded hotel room and sexually assaults her. He gets 2.5 years. He gets less than Lucy Connolly got for hurty words on Facebook. What is going wrong, folks? Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. Are these migrants, are these asylum seekers, when they commit these heinous crimes, are they the recipients of two-tier justice? Are we treating these foreigners who break into this country, are we treating them especially leniently in court? One rapist doesn't go to jail. Another sexual assaulter of a 7-year-old girl gets 2.5 years and will probably be out after about 6 months. It's all wrong, isn't it? 03444991000. Let's now move on to the thorny issue of MPs drinking at work, having a beer during the working day, perhaps having a bottle of wine, perhaps with lunch or after lunch, you know, after work. First of all, this is Hannah Spencer. Well, actually, let's get my guest on first. He's the former Conservative MP for Don Valley, Nick Fletcher. Welcome, Nick.
Hello there. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for joining us. Before we talk about this important issue, this is Hannah Spencer, the new Green MP for Gorton and Denton, with her views on her new parliamentary colleagues drinking.
I'm really uneasy about, and I noticed this the other day, when you can smell the alcohol when people are in between votes, and as everyone's going in to vote, some people have been drinking in between. Like, there's a room where I walked past and I'd doubled back and looked in because people are just sat having a drink. But again, that's a job. Like, I can't imagine if a cleaner did that or someone working in a bank, like, had a few drinks and then went back to work, like, a bit, you know, like smelling of alcohol, like, that wouldn't happen. And I think there's been so many cases recently of, like, questionable and dangerous behaviour from, you know, allegedly from MPs, but staff, like, because this culture of a really unprofessional and worrying setting where people can just drink alcohol.
Nick, I mean, what is she talking about? I mean, you know, bankers, for example, it's not unknown for them to go for a pint at lunchtime or to have a famous long lunch with a couple of bottles of wine. You know, I mean, moderate drinking during the working day is not illegal. Someone ought to tell Hannah that. And I don't see why MPs should be banned from having a drink during the working day. I mean, we don't want to get drunk, but a pint at lunchtime, surely that's not a criminal act.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think the word that you used there, which is most important, is moderate. And I spent 4.5 years down there, and I didn't see anybody drunk walking through the lobbies, nor would I expect to. A lot of people don't understand what the working week's like for MPs, but I was in my office for 8 o'clock in the morning, and the chamber sat around at 11:30 on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and we could still be voting at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So I think it's not a normal job. Would I agree with MPs getting drunk? Of course not. Would I agree with them having a pint at the end of a long day to build relationships with other people? Of course I would. And I think Hannah's got a lot to learn there. And I don't think she's going about it the right way, because, as I say, it's all about building relationships, and telling all your colleagues, all your new colleagues, that they don't think they should be drinking is not really the best way to start a new job.
Also, Nick, I mean, I've been to Parliament quite a few times. I've walked up and down the corridors. You all know this. It's just not true to say they stink of alcohol. It's nonsense to say that. Now, this is coming from a representative of a party who seems to think they want to legalise heroin and crack cocaine. So presumably, while Hannah is extremely energised and worked up and furious about MPs drinking during working hours, presumably she wouldn't mind at all if they jacked up some heroin or smoked some crack. I mean, the hypocrisy in her standpoint is ludicrous.
Yes, it's not only ludicrous, but it's dangerous, and people need to remember that, because the Green Party, I do believe, would be a danger to our country. Legalising heroin, legalising any of the drugs that are out there at the moment that are currently illegal would be a terrible thing to do. I've seen what happens to young people. I've seen what happens to their lives when they end up on drugs, and legalising would be a terrible, terrible thing for us to do. There's a huge difference between a pint after work and legalising heroin, and I'm afraid the Green Party just, well, they don't seem to come forward with any policies that have got any common sense in them whatsoever.
Yeah, she effectively wants to outlaw alcohol, but she wants to legalise heroin and crack. Make of that what you will. I should say, in fairness, Nick, a YouGov poll has just come to our attention, saying that the British public disapprove of MPs drinking alcohol ahead of evening votes in Parliament. 76% brand this unacceptable, 52% say it's completely unacceptable. Well, I mean, I get that, but even then, I would suggest what we're talking about. I mean, what I would say is, Nick, you know this as well. I mean, I know this sounds like an extremely controversial thing to say, but it's very rare for MPs to get drunk while they're at work. It's very rare for representatives of the people in Westminster to, you know, have 28 glasses of wine before they make a vote. So I just think that Hannah Spencer is raising an issue unnecessarily, because I don't think MPs getting drunk before they make votes is a thing. I don't think it happens. I don't think it hardly ever happens. And the idea that they could have a glass of wine before they make this vote, if they go out for something to eat, a couple of glasses of wine over dinner, I don't have a problem with that. Let's not get too puritanical, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Any MP that's caught being drunk should be disciplined, and in all fairness, I believe should resign. It's a very, very important job. There's no two ways about it. But there's a complete difference there. And as I say, most people don't realise what these days look like for MPs. Most people tend to work sort of 8, maybe even 12-hour shifts. MPs can work 18 hours quite easily, especially with the votes. And it's same in the Lords. The Lords actually go through till sometimes 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's not a normal job. And I think everyone should obviously look at this, look at the people that are actually saying this. Let's legalise heroin, but let's stop MPs having a pint in an evening and just say, look, this is how silly it is, and this is what you expect from the Green Party.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's the sort of virtue signaling holier than thou. You know, yes. I've come in with my clean broom and these awful old men and women all drinking, and I'm wonderful and I'm the knight in shining armour. That's what it is. It's a sort of rather putrid virtue signalling, typical. Before you go, Nick, thanks for coming on, by the way. Let me get your view on what's going on with Keir Starmer. I know that during your parliamentary days you were a big Boris Johnson supporter. This Prime Minister during those days, Keir Starmer, when he was merely Keir Starmer cabinet member, or shadow cabinet member, he was all over Starmer. Oh, this is disgusting, get rid of this man, he's lied to Parliament, you know, we need a vote and all this kind of stuff. Now the boot is on the other foot. He is squirming like crazy. He is whipping all of his MPs into voting against him going before the Privileges Committee for allegedly lying to Parliament. He's trying to squirm out of exactly what he tried to get Keir Starmer, or rather Boris Johnson, skewered for, right?
Exactly right. I mean, you reap what you sow. It's as simple as that. And I definitely think there's a case there for an investigation into this. This is really, really serious. And I hope the MPs on both sides actually look at this and say, look, the people want to know the answers here. It should go to the Privilege Committee. And if their findings should be brought in front of the public. It's only the right thing to do. He's definitely a man of process. He's definitely a man who likes things done in a certain fashion and to follow the rule of the law, so it needs to follow. And yeah, I hope the MPs, I'll be watching the local MPs in Doncaster, in South Yorkshire, seeing how they vote, and I hope the electorate will be watching too. Is deeply, deeply damaged the office of number 10 Downing Street, I believe. And there's an awful lot of people wanted him to go before this happened. And to me, this is the final nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of when, not if. Good to talk to you, Nick. Thank you so much for your time. That is Nick Fletcher, former Conservative MP for Don Valley. What do you think? Should MPs be allowed to have a drink at work? I mean, I'm not talking about getting drunk. And I do believe if they want to go out and have a quick bite and a glass of wine before an evening vote, let's not get too puritanical. I mean, they're human. We all like a drink now and again, don't we? And we're not talking about getting drunk. So Hannah Spencer, she's just polishing her halo and sort of trying to criticise people, you know, for being, you know, they're the old way and I'm the new way. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. Let me know what you think. 03444 99 1000. Sean Custis, Director of Sport at The Sun, will be in the studio next. We'll talk about some of the big games over the weekend and the rest of the season to come. That next, stay tuned.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Director of Sport at The Sun, Sean Custis, is in the studio. A Newcastle fan. He was at Arsenal over the weekend. Your thoughts on that slender 1-0 victory for Arsenal? I mean, it wasn't decisive, but I guess they got the job done.
No, there was nervousness all round, really. Arsenal fans were really panicky, edgy. It wasn't a brilliant performance by Arsenal, but we didn't do enough, really, to get a draw even, I didn't think. Although Newcastle were quite stoic, dug in. And Newcastle fans are in this weird situation at the moment where they don't want to really get stuck into Eddie Howe, but equally they're not shouting out from the rafters in support of him either. We've gone through a terrible run, lost 6 in a row, and it's becoming concerning. For Arsenal, though, as you say, they got the job done. There was a lot of relief on the faces of Arsenal fans, and I think of Mikel Arteta, who was sort of punching the air and stuff like that. And hey, yeah, they did get the job done. Of course, they've got big European Champions League semi-final this week as well against Atletico Madrid. So they've got plenty on their plate. So fair play to them for winning, I suppose.
he said through gritty teeth.
I was right in line with Ezzy's goal. I was in the way, and the ball, see it coming towards me. I thought
that's going in. Yeah, I hate when that
did hit it well. You've got to say he hit it well.
Yeah, no, it was a good goal. A quick word about the 2 FA Cup semi-finals. Chelsea beat Leeds yesterday, and of course, Man City came from behind to beat Southampton. Man City, I've got to say, looking quite good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they played virtually their second team against Southampton.
Until Guardiola thought, better do something about this. Yeah.
Obviously, I wasn't looking that much too closely as I was at the Emirates, but I've seen the highlights since. And look, they've got great strength in depth. You can play virtually the second team and do okay. But you're right, they had to bring on a few of the big hitters towards the end. Bernardo Silva, Erling Haaland, to get the job done. But Southampton showed, they're a real coming force. They're playing fantastically well, and although they might not get the automatic promotion spot, they'll certainly be favourites to go through in the playoffs. They played well. And of course, then we had Chelsea yesterday, having caused all sorts of commotion, sacked the manager, Enzo Fernandez going off on one, Cucurella being a pain. What happens? They go and win with an Enzo Fernandez header. Look, it is what Chelsea do, isn't it? No matter what the chaos that's going on around them, they still find a way to get into finals and win trophies.
You just knew they were going to win that game with that.
You did. And then there's this Fernandes thing, he's sort of punching the badge, and as if I'm Chelsea through and through. And you think, well, you're not really, are you? You haven't really been talking about that. You want to go to Real Madrid.
Yeah, exactly.
You know the truth, but for now, we'll put up with it.
Hey, I live and breathe Chelsea. No,
it doesn't make them very popular, but they can be effective despite the chaos.
Quick last word on the soccer front tonight in the league. Man United, Brentford. What's the play for there?
Strange game, isn't it? Because Man United have virtually guaranteed themselves a place in the Champions League, but a win here will pretty much cement it.
Yeah.
Brentford, if they win, they'll get properly back into the European shake-up. So there is bits to play for, but it feels like a game lacking in some jeopardy.
One of those end of the season games.
Not the most exciting games, but Man United are always newsworthy, aren't they? So I think they've been in reasonable enough form for you to expect them to win that, Kevin, really?
I mean, end of the season games are either incredibly nail-biting and exciting because there's so much to play for, or they're completely meaningless.
Hey, but look, if you want to talk about any end-of-season game this weekend, Rochdale v York was absolutely fantastic. For York to win promotion back into the Football League when Rochdale thought they'd do it. Honestly, watch the footage of that on YouTube. It was
I didn't know about
absolutely sensational.
I'll have a look at that.
That was amazing.
Right, we have other sports to talk about. Snooker, what's happened?
Ronnie O'Sullivan's out. This is always bad news.
He's let the family down again.
Well, because when Ronnie goes out of the snooker, it's like a great big balloon gets popped in the country. Snooker's been a popular sport on terrestrial TV, going back to the 80s, but it perhaps has less of the characters now. Ronnie is one of those characters, and he's lost to an old adversary in John Higgins, who is a very well-respected former world champion, but not the charisma of Ronnie O'Sullivan. And Ronnie lost it 13-12, and he had a grip on it. He was 8-3 ahead, he was 9-4 ahead, and he's let it go. And he didn't exactly stomp off, but he conceded before Higgins even bothered. Because
he usually wins those, doesn't he?
Yeah, but it's a bit of a shame because we want to see Ronnie get another title, we want him to set a record, get an 8th, and he's out. And it's not good for the tournament when Ronnie goes out ahead of the quarterfinals. You want him to stay in, if possible. But well done to John Higgins.
Yeah, brilliant. Seesaw match, so well done, John Higgins, as you say. Boxing.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua has signed a deal to fight fellow former world heavyweight champion Tyson Fury.
He has, and this has been coming. They've been talking about this fight for it feels like 15 years.
I thought he'd retired.
He had retired, but then he had that comeback, didn't he? Recently, that fight against Magmadov. It's agreed. Joshua has to have another fight first, a warm-up fight against an Albanian who nobody's ever heard of. Just to get the ring rust off him, and then they will get it together sometime in the autumn. Eddie Hearn's confirmed is on. Turki Al-Sheikh, who's a big figure in boxing, has confirmed it's on. We don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah, will it be here in Britain, do you think?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Whatever anybody says about whether they're past it or whatever, it's still a fight people want to see. We've been waiting a long, long time to see it. And it'll sell out in no time. It'll be a big sell. It'll probably go on Netflix as well, again, and it will be a big event. It'll be the biggest event of that time. Then? I think Fury probably. I think he's still got enough in the tag. Joshua always looks more of the athlete, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Fury doesn't.
That's what I was thinking.
He doesn't, but Fury's still got that punching weight behind, and he's a big fella. I know Joshua's a big fella, but Fury's a really big fella.
I mean, that is the thing about him.
That's heavyweight boxing for you. But look, it'd be fascinating. The build-up would be huge, and I think it's still a fight that boxing fans want to see.
Yeah, I mean, it is intriguing. It's amazing, isn't it? Boxers used to retire when about 25. Now they go on till about 55.
Forever. These two are only sort of mid to late 30s, though. To be fair, they've got a bit longer in them.
Good fight though coming up. So excellent sport review, all in the pages of the Sun tomorrow. Don't miss that excellent newspaper. Big thanks to Director of Sport Sean Custis for that preview. Coming up after the 6 o'clock news, are going to be joined by Andy Preston, former independent mayor for Middlesbrough, with all of the big stories, his take on them. Stay tuned for that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about 20-25 minutes or so, we're going to go live to Washington to talk to our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, who's been there throughout this dramatic weekend, the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the Hilton Hotel in Washington, of course, afflicted by this terrible assassination attempt on the president. Gunshots ringing out, everybody falling to the ground, all of that. Into this, the king has flown into the aftermath of that trauma. The king has flown with the Queen for his official state visit. The big question is can Charles repair the damage that Keir Starmer has done to the special relationship between America and Britain? We'll talk about that. I'll also talk about Prince Harry with Kinsey. What was he doing? What was he thinking of when he went to Ukraine at the end of last week, making speeches about what America ought to do and its international obligations? This is above his pay grade. He shouldn't be allowed to do this. And if he's going to carry on doing this, he did it deliberately. To undermine his father's state visit. You know what he's like. If he's going to carry on doing this, the question on the table is going to have to be, how long will it be before the king takes away Harry's title, his royal title? Because if he's going to do that, he doesn't deserve to be Prince Harry. He doesn't deserve to be the Duke of Sussex. That was outrageous what he did last week. And also farcical, juvenile, infantile. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he should not be allowed to do that. So we'll talk about that in a little while. But for the next 20 minutes or so, let's spend them in the excellent company of political commentator, former independent mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. He's in the studio. Welcome, Andy.
Hello, Kevin. Hi.
Good to have you here. Well, before we get cracking, let's talk about the Prime Minister's sleaze problems. Earlier today, the Speaker of the House, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, green-lit the debate tomorrow on whether or not the Prime Minister should go before the Privileges Committee for allegedly lying to the House last week, among many other alleged examples of him fibbing or being economic with the truth in the House of Commons. So here's Lindsay Hoyle earlier giving the go-ahead to this embarrassing debate for the Prime Minister.
Numerous honourable and right honourable members from across the House have written to ask me to give precedence to a matter as an issue of privilege. The matter concerns the Prime Minister's answers to the House about the process for the appointment of Peter Mandelson and related issues. In this case, having taken advice, have decided to allow the House to come to a view on whether the Committee of Privileges should look at the matter. It is not for me to make any decision or view. Therefore, the Leader of the Opposition will have the opportunity to put the matter to the House tomorrow.
See, this isn't what Starmer wanted, Andy, and he'll be pretty furious about the fact that his entire reputation will be hauled over the coals during this debate, and all the Tories, Reform, SNP, Lib Dems, Greens are going to have a field day with him. They're going to be like vultures plucking the meat from a skeleton. He's going to have a very unfortunate experience. However, and he's not happy, however, the idea that his fate should lie in the hands of a parliamentary vote. Now, what's on the table is the accusation, the allegation that particularly last week he lied to the House insofar as he insisted to the Commons that no pressure was put on the civil service, Ollie Robbins, or his predecessor at the Foreign Office, Sir Philip Barton, at all, in the rush, if you like, to get Peter Mandelson's security vetted for his job as ambassador to the United States of America. He said no pressure. Now, that is a clear lie. It's just not true. And a lot of Labour MPs, let alone other MPs, believe this might be it for him. But it turns out that this goes to a vote, that MPs decide whether or not he should face this sleaze appearance, if you like, before the Privileges Committee to decide whether or not he's lied. Well, I think that's ridiculous. You know, it's basically he's got to go to all his mates and say, hey, vote against him. You know, it's like sort of being accused of bank robbery and being able to get someone to lobby against it.
I'll take the opposite side a little bit here. I think that the MP should decide. I think MPs should decide. I think it's about standards. It's not a matter of the criminal law.
Yeah, but that turns it into an issue of partisanship.
Well, that's a good point, and I think that's why it should be a free vote. I think MPs,
but won't make any difference,
your peers should have a free vote. I think there are enough people within Labour who can see what's happening. They want him out. Personally, I think they'd be better off going into the local elections without Keir Starmer as leader. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, look, the complexities of this are vast. I'm baffled as to what exactly happened. It's clearly murky. There's clearly been some skullduggery going on, and we do need an investigation. And I think MPs should vote on that, but it must be a free vote.
Yeah, because at the moment it isn't. So that'll be tomorrow. So effectively, the Prime Minister, who's got a majority of something like 290, huge majority, he'll be able to whip his supporters, his lemming-like supporters, into voting against him going before the Privileges Committee. Therefore, he gets off the hook. That's no good.
Let's see, Kevin. You know what? They're a self-serving bunch, MPs, and I wouldn't be surprised, you know. Forgive me for being cynical, but they are a self-serving
You're
bunch.
kidding.
And I wouldn't be surprised that a clever, cunning little bunch, little cohort is saying, you know what? If we're the ones, because Starmer's going to go, there's no doubt about that. It's a question of when. If we're seen to make it happen now and open the door for Angela Rayner or Ed Miliband or even Andy Burnham, we will be rewarded and we'll be looked on favourably when the new regime comes in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see quite a lot of rebellion in this.
Yeah, it says we may be at least edging towards the tipping point where this handful of Labour MPs and ministers, don't forget the Scottish Tory guy, Labour guys come out against him. This handful of Labour luminaries who have said he's got to go, we may be on the edge of that handful turning into a multitude. You know, you often do get these tipping points. If we get to there, if there's a majority of Labour MPs don't want him there anymore, he really
or even some of them, Kevin, even if it's like, can't do the maths in my head, but perhaps 70 or 80 of them actually switch sides, it could well fail.
At least that will send. But even if the vote succeeds in his favour, if 70 or 80 vote against him, he might finally get the message.
It'll embolden everybody else.
Which brings me to my next question. I mean, I read that I picked up the Sunday Times yesterday with an increasing sense of incredulity. It's like, hang on, this is Keir Starmer here giving an interview saying not only that he can survive this current scandal, but, get this, he can win the next general election. If he really believes this guy belongs in a padded cell.
There is, well, do you know what? I was going to say there is no way. Politics is a funny thing, and I would say there might be a 1% chance that Labour can win the next election. However, only if he goes. If he's there, there is literally zero chance. And do you know what? Deep down, he must know that. If he doesn't, as you say, he's living on a different planet.
I mean, of course, people like him, you know, being a Prime Minister, being a political leader is, in a sense, you're constantly campaigning for yourself. You're constantly campaigning to say, I'm the right person to do this. Keep on supporting me. So I get that. I get why he's given this interview. But he should have been a lot more careful about what he said, because what he said just made him look like a clown.
It did. It did. And do you know what? When it comes to bullying yourself up, when it comes to spreading optimism and changing public opinion, he is the wrong guy. He doesn't have that spark, that charisma, that X factor. Boris Johnson clung on and nearly did it in the end. Starmer can't do it. He can't turn it around.
And of course, what's interesting is Boris Johnson did go before the Privileges Committee and was forced subsequently to resign because they did find that he'd misled the House.
Yeah, it creates this whole raft of bad news, and it keeps the story going forever and a day. And this does need investigating, though, Kevin. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, you know, he carries on chucking as many people under the bus as possible to save his own sorry backside. The word is that come the local elections, we mustn't prejudge them. Don't forget we are in a sort of purdah situation where legally we're not allowed to discuss them. Because apparently if we mention the local elections, it means that we will completely influence all these children out there who are about to vote, infantilising the electorate. But those are the rules, so we can't talk about this. But what he's implying in this Sunday Times interview, and he's making clear, is that if they get to the local elections and Labour get the shellacking that everybody expects them to get annihilated, maybe they might lose as many as 1,500 seats in local elections, which will be unprecedented. That he will try to throw a veil over that by saying, or launching yet another one of his notorious resets. And he's going to announce the mother of all reshuffles for the cabinet, which will involve the ultimate victim being thrown under the bus. Step forward, one Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, the analogy, you know, that phrase, throwing someone under the bus, it's perfect. So I was thinking on the way here, it's like the Labour Party is a bus. You've got this bus of cabinet members and special advisors and senior civil servants. He's the driver and Rachel Reeves is the conductor. Well, he's chucked everybody under the bus. There is nobody left apart from him and Rachel Reeves. So maybe at the end of the day, she's the last one. But you know what? When a football club seems destined for relegation and the chairman rolls the dice, you don't change the head of finance, you get a new manager in. And, you know, playing around with the Chancellor is just dumb. He is the one. He's the weakest link. He is the only thing that will change the public's perception of Labour.
And his approach to his increasing problems is always to say it wasn't me, it was Ollie Robbins, it wasn't me. All the economic problems with the country, oh, that's the Chancellor, it's not me.
I think it's his nature. I don't know him. I haven't observed his career, you know, close up, but I would bet a lot of money that all through his career he's tried to follow the letter of the law, not the spirit of it. He's thrown anyone under the bus who gets in his way. He's sucked up to his bosses, and now he's ended up at the top, but he's run out of road. He's there exposed, and he doesn't know what to do.
There's word that Downing Street this morning called for a set of jacks in order to jack up the bus because Keir Starmer's running out of room to throw people under it. There's no room left. It's very crowded under Keir Starmer's bus. He's thrown so many people under there. What do you make of the King's upcoming visit well, he's arriving now in Washington for the official state visit. I mean, his job is to try to repair the damage that Keir Starmer has done to the special relationship, and the damage Keir Starmer has done to the special relationship with America is untold. It's massive. Can the King pull it off? My thoughts are he will pull it off temporarily, but the effect of the regal visit won't last long.
I think you're right. I think it's great that we have a monarchy for these things. Do you know what? Because when they go, Kevin, there's a sense of permanency. When a Prime Minister goes, everyone knows that Prime Minister's probably gone in 6 weeks, 6 months, or certainly in a few years' time. The King has this sense of permanency. It's about the country, not the politics, so that's really strong. However, I don't think you can have a strong long-term relationship with Trump, and I don't think that he has any long-term allies. I think they're all very functional. It's a very transactional thing, and he falls out with everyone eventually.
And the King, you know, he's a consummate diplomat. His whole job is about being very diplomatic. And don't forget, folks, these official royal visits, I mean, they're not just jaunts for the King and various members of the royal family. They perform a very important diplomatic function. They sell Britain around the world. They seal our relationships with foreign countries, particularly America. So they are important visits. Now, the King, consummate diplomat, knows exactly how to behave. But let's not forget that underpinning this visit, underpinning his relationship with Donald Trump. Donald Trump talks effusively about my friend the King. Underpinning this relationship, this alleged friendship, is that the King politically could not be further away from Donald Trump.
I am sure that he's gritting his teeth and crossing his fingers as he sits next to. Let's not forget that the King is the King of Canada. He is the head of state of Canada.
Right.
And Donald Trump said he threatened to invade it. So good for King Charles for, I assume, biting his tongue. He's going to go along.
Will. Yeah,
he'll bite his... As you say, he's a pro. And I think even those amongst us who aren't royalists should appreciate the value they can add, the sparkle, because it does win people over. Whether you can win Trump over is a different matter.
Trump said the King would have agreed with America invading Iran. Tell you what, Donald, I've got some news for you. He would not agree with you invading Iran, 100%.
Or Canada.
But he certainly wouldn't agree with Canada or Greenland. And by the way, that drill, baby, drill, the King is a green fanatic. He wouldn't like drill, baby, drill
That's
either,
right.
would he?
Absolutely. But of course, King Charles keeps quiet. He doesn't say a word. And listen, only good will come of this. We will not win Trump over long term. Nobody can. But I think it will cement a relationship between British people and American people, and I think only good will come of the visit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the King and where he stands on various policies, but particularly his green claptrap. But this is one area where I did approve of the story that goes around about him. Apparently, when Trump said those disgraceful things about the British soldiers not really being on the front line in Afghanistan, even though something like 400 British soldiers laid down their lives fighting with Americans for that cause, for the American cause in Afghanistan, when Trump said that, apparently the King had to be scraped off the ceiling. Apparently he was absolutely hopping mad. I wonder if, even in his great feats of diplomacy, the King will let that one slide, or will he mention it?
I wonder. I mean, Trump did backtrack. There are stories around...
Not enough, in my view. He never apologised. He's got this thing, he never apologises.
No,
we
that's
should
right.
have made him
he
apologise.
acknowledged, didn't he, that he may have overstepped the mark.
We should have made him apologise.
Is the King... Is he still the Colonel-in-Chief of the Paras?
I think
he might be. And Denmark, of course, the Danish soldiers, the Danes lost more soldiers in these wars in Afghanistan
it was a disgrace,
than any other nation per head. And Trump's disrespect was utterly staggering. But my understanding is that the King may have had a discreet and sensitive word about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm glad to hear that the King was furious about that, because most British citizens were as well. I mean, Trump, as you say, sort of said, I should have said how brave the British troops are. But, just saying that we weren't really on the front line when, I'll get the real figures, I think it was about 400 British soldiers died fighting with Americans on the front line in Afghanistan. That was disgraceful. And if Donald hasn't got that message yet, then I hope the King rams it home. Andy Preston, thank you so much. Come on in again. Andy Preston, political commentator, former independent mayor of Middlesbrough, in the studio on all of the big stories of the day. Next up, as I said, we're going to go live to Washington and talk to Kinsey Schofield about what's going on in that great city. Obviously, that city recovering from the trauma of what happened at the weekend, the assassination attempt on the president. But I also want to ask Kinsey's view on Prince Harry and Meghan's latest statement. Meghan says she's just emerging from the hardest 7 years of her life. Doesn't that encompass her marriage to Harry? I mean, hello. We'll talk about all of that after these messages. Stay where you are. Back in a moment.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Washington to talk to our royal correspondent, our royal expert, Kinsey Schofield. She's the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, of course, and she's over there in the city that was traumatised over the weekend by another assassination attempt on the president. Kinsey, welcome. First of all, let me ask you, what is the mood in Washington today? Because there's a lot of talk back here. The King, of course, is still going ahead with his official state visit. He's landing in Washington in America today. But there's a lot of fears about security after that assassination attempt on the president. A gunman managing to run through the security there. Shots being heard at the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the Hilton Hotel. The president and others having to be rushed away. All the guests at that event diving to the floor. Terrible, traumatic scenes. Is there a feeling that security is really being hotted up for the visit of the King?
Well, I will tell you that based on the incident over the weekend that took place, this is probably the safest place in the world to be right now, because they have amped up their security measures all throughout the city. With the addition of, once he lands, King Charles's own personal security and what comes with royal security, I think that the city accepts the fact that, unfortunately, due to that event, we are in the safest place we could possibly be right now.
Indeed. Now, well, we wish the King the best, and we hope that the royal visit goes well. I'm sure you'll be covering it, following it every step of the way. I wanted to get you about what happened towards the end of last week, that the Duke of Sussex, the Prince Harry, arrived in Ukraine unannounced, suddenly pitched up in Ukraine, making this speech saying that America must adhere to its obligations, stick to its obligations under international treaties, etc., to defend Ukraine and all that. Doesn't really. The two things we have to take on board about what he said are this. One, it shouldn't matter at all. Who the hell is he? He's there as a private citizen. He's not there as a member of the royal family. I think this is way above his pay grade, his intellectual pay grade. He's not the brightest pin in the pack, is he? And he should not be making this kind of speech. He's been greeted with horror in diplomatic circles. He should not be putting the cat among the pigeons with these kind of speeches, and just ahead of his father's official visit to America, that kind of speech in the international arena, I think, was the height of irresponsibility. There are calls now to say that he's crossed the line. It is time for at least the King to warn him. You do any more of this and I'm taking your titles away. He's got to be stopped. This is not on.
I completely agree with you. I think that this was irresponsible. Harry had a moment with the American people where they were a huge fan of his and they supported him. And that was when he initially moved here. He sits down with Oprah Winfrey. He loses some support after the Oprah Winfrey interview, but then he releases Spare, one of the fastest selling, if not the fastest selling autobiography in the world, where he proceeds to talk about his frozen Todger over 50 times. I'm sorry, but if this is how you introduce yourself reintroduce yourself perhaps to the world. You're going to have a hard time being taken seriously in any arena going forward, let alone geopolitical arenas. We don't care what Harry has to say. You know, it's, to me, I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but he reminds me of Hunter Biden, you know, doing whatever he can. Well, you know, Hunter Biden was on how many boards, and he didn't know what the heck was going on, or he couldn't contribute to the conversation because he was literally there because of who his daddy was. And that, to me, is what we're seeing right here. Harry being invited into rooms, not because of anything that he personally contributes, but because of who his father is. And if he wanted this life, he should have stayed within the British royal family, but he quit his job, Kevin. Not only did he quit his job, but he gave his family the finger multiple times between the Netflix special where they basically called the institution racist, between the Oprah Winfrey interview where they called a member of their family racist and later denied it, Harry's book where he goes into private text messages between Meghan and the future Queen, the Princess of Wales. He's done everything he can to alienate himself from this family, but wants us to believe that he is still one of them. By the way, also completely contradicted himself after Australia, where he sat down with someone and said he didn't want to be a royal. It killed his mother. And then tells Chris Shipp, who hopefully he's gotten the brown off of his nose after that interview, Mr. Shipp, tells Chris Shipp, I'll always be a royal. I am a royal. This is what I was born to do.
Yeah, well, you're quite right. I forgot about that. In Australia, he made a big thing of saying, I never wanted to be royal. To Chris Shipp, ITV News' royal editor, while he was in Ukraine last week, 2-day visit, he told, Chris Shipp said, well, you're not a working royal anymore. And he said, I'll always be a member of the royal family. I'm a member of the royal family and I'm working. So therefore I am a working royal. No, Harry, you're not. And fairly soon, although you'll always be a relative of the royal family, you'll always be the king's son, I think if he's going to carry on behaving like this outrageous, infantile interjection into the proceedings when he made this speech about whether or not America should carry on supporting Harry. If he's going to carry on doing that, then the king, at the very least, should have the guts, I'm going to put it that way, he should have the guts to tell him, you make one more speech like that and I'm taking your titles away. He cannot be allowed to do this. It was outrageous what he did last week.
I agree. And he's created this very uncomfortable, it was already uncomfortable. Harry and Meghan speak out about Trump, you know, so we're already going to have this bizarre elephant in the room in the shape of Harry and Meghan. But for Harry then to go poke the bear within days of his father's visit, and I know, like, I've heard some American commentators tell me, like, the American public don't care about the special relationship with Britain and the United States, but we should. We've accomplished incredible things together, and I'd hope that we could continue to do that. What King Charles is supposed to be doing over the next few days is incredibly important work, probably the most important, in my personal opinion, in his reign, mediating between a prime minister who I'm shocked still has a job today. Boris Johnson gets the boot over a piece of cake. And here's Keir Starmer on his third or fourth scandal. Again, that's my personal opinion. And a very cantankerous president, you know, like a very just you don't want to get on his bad side.
Exactly right. I mean, as I say, Harry just cannot do this, and he deliberately did. It's quite clear he deliberately did this ahead of his father's official state visit to America. Went to Ukraine to deliver this juvenile, infantile speech. You know, it's above his pay grade. It's above his intellectual pay grade, and he said, "I'm a royal. I'll always be a royal, and I'm working, and therefore I'm a working royal." Well, as I say, you'll always be your father's son. Whether or not you'll be an official member of the royal family going forward, I think is up in the air. And by the way, Kinsey, what is his definition of working? I'm a royal and I'm working. Are you? That's not working. That's going to Ukraine on a train and making a speech. That's not working.
and taking selfies. And yeah, no, working royals, they have to do things that they don't want to do. They get out of bed every day and they have responsibilities. And between bong hits, allegedly my opinion, and surfing and surf camp, a grown person going to surf camp, Harry picks and chooses what he wants to do, and this isn't a lifestyle for him. We've seen that. And I'd also, if I were Chris Ship, I would have said, can you tell me exactly what you're wearing? And can you send me the affiliate link so you can get a commission from it too? Harry and Meghan are commercializing and monetizing the platform that they have thanks to the British royal family, and that cheapens the institution immensely. It jeopardizes the mystique and what makes the institution special. So yes, I think all of us are frustrated with King Charles. I'm grateful that he's coming here. I'm grateful that he's going to sit down with Trump and they're going to have fun together, I imagine. But I am tired of his weakness in this scenario. And I would say too that the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor scenario made public perception of him weaken as well. They questioned his leadership. And there's even a more sinister question surrounding a cover-up, which he really can't afford. So I wish that he would man up in this specific situation and show us leadership, put Harry and Meghan in their places. And I think it could change public perception. I don't know how many other Americans you've spoken to about this visit, but there's not a lot of excitement surrounding it. If it were William and Catherine, I can tell you it would be a completely different story. But the king and I had one woman say to me, is Camilla coming? There is, they aren't as popular as William and Catherine are here in the United States.
Well, they're just not very showbiz, are they, the King and the Queen? And you're right, they do not carry the popularity that Kate and William do, even Harry and Meghan in their day, but perhaps Harry and Meghan are no longer all that popular. But what I do think, the King is renowned. He's not a strong man, and he hates confrontation. I just think he should say to Harry, listen, one more speech like that, you do that one more time, and you are no longer the Duke of Sussex. You are no longer Prince Harry. And if you don't believe me, see what I did to Andrew. I will reduce you to a commoner. So don't do that again. Will he do that? Will the King do that? Has he got the guts to do that? Frankly, I doubt it. But we do wish him well on this state visit. Before you go, we need to talk about Meghan. Well, she's given an extraordinary indication by liking these astrology tweets that have been put out. She has indicated that she is just emerging from the hardest, most challenging 7 years of her life. Isn't that like the period of her marriage to Harry?
They're both so dumb. They're both so stupid, and they don't think about the consequences of their actions. This again, how are we not supposed to immediately interpret it as what you just said? 7 years, huh? If I do the math, that's about the time you start shacking up with the ginger, isn't it? It's insane. It's insane. And I think I told you a few weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, but I had heard, one of my sources told me that Meghan had an astrologer in Australia that told her this was going to be her year. And that's why we were seeing so much of her and so aggressively. So to me, this justifies some of my reporting earlier this year that Meghan does rely so heavily on astrology. And should she, I think would be one of my big questions, because I don't believe it's been her year. I think that there was a massive backlash in Australia due to her taking pictures with sick children and then trying to turn a profit with the commission on her clothing. But yeah, good luck, I guess. I'm rooting for the next 7 years of your life. But if we really broke it down, Kevin, everything this woman ever dreamt of became true thanks to her marriage to Harry. her dreams have come true. His are the ones we're worried about. He looks like a complete rudderless fool between the Todger book and randomly trying to speak on geopolitical issues. The whiplash is insane, but she got to be the lifestyle TV host that she always dreamt of. She's released a book and insists you call her a New York Times bestselling author because of it. You know, she got a reality TV show and a Netflix deal and was taken seriously on Variety red carpets. She's had multiple magazine covers. You know, how are these people perpetually complaining? She really does have such an enchanting life, right? Like, and she's trying to tell us these last 7 years have been
the most challenging, hardest of her life. So these were 2 astrology-themed messages that she reposted to her 4.5 million Instagram followers, suggesting that April the 25th represented a significant turning point for her. So Meghan bases her life around astrology and horoscopes. That explains a lot, doesn't it?
Well, she puts the horror in horoscope. I will say that. Yeah, I mean, good luck, I guess. But Diana was this. Maybe this is just another one of the weird ways she hijacks Diana's legacy. So Prince Harry really thinks he's in bed every night with the second coming, because Diana did this stuff too.
Yeah, exactly right. Listen, Kinsey, you've got a busy few days ahead. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you on Thursday. All the best now. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, with all the news from Washington, where the King is just beginning his official state royal visit. Obviously, that will dominate the headlines in the days to come. So we'll keep you updated as that visit progresses. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take your calls all the way to the end of the show. That's 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me, and I promise to play your message out. All of that still to come. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A few messages to read out before we go to the phones. This is June, says, not bothered about MPs having a drink, but they should pay London prices for their food and drink as we have to. That's because they get subsidised cheap booze in the Westminster estate, in the Parliamentary estate in Westminster, all the bars there. Jane says, people on benefits should just have benefits to live, not money for outings. This is from MG. I do not agree with the discounts, etc. However, many benefit recipients would have been working. Plenty of these are taxpayers, but should save up. Good words, very wise, as always, from MG there. And Christine says, fuel has increased in price already. Maybe the protesters couldn't afford the cost of the fuel to turn up. That's to the reform protest, the fuel price protest organised by Robert Jenrick, Reform UK's spokesman on Treasury matters, their effective shadow chancellor. Only 2 people turned up. More people from Reform turned up to stand on the top of the bus. No other protesters. As I said earlier, I think that's because the effect of the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz has not been felt yet. Once we feel it, and it won't be long, you're going to know about it. You're really going to know about it. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Laura in Wiltshire. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Kev, how are you?
I'm all right. What would you like to say?
Well, I was just really interested in the piece you had earlier. Well, it's been going all over talk about free
benefits. The benefit freebies, the
prices.
Discounts.
Yeah, but I'm genuinely, Kev, and this is maybe really bad of me to say this, but how many of these people do you think are actually going to be trucking up to the Tower of London and taking their children around on a really intelligent, historical, important, day for them?
Do you know what? Sorry to fly in the face of what you're saying. I get your point, Laura. But I'm thinking back to the Spectator when it did the story, when it broke this story of all the freebies that people on benefits get often. And I think I'm right in recalling that they said that as many as 300,000 benefits claimers have taken advantage of these special offers over the past year. That's a lot of money.
Well, it is, but I mean, I don't know what the deals are, Kev. I really don't.
Well, I can tell you. For example, it's something like to take a family of 4 to the Tower of London. It's something like 110 quid. If you are on a benefit claimer's discount, it's 7 quid. It's the discounts are huge.
I get the discount. I really, really get the discount. But I just really wonder, over a year, I really wonder how many people. So my thing is, I live in rural Wiltshire. I'm quite near Salisbury. I live a wonderful life. And in Salisbury, there are endless nail bars, endless eyebrow bars, whatever. And someone I know who runs a beauty salon says she gets girls in there who are having the full Miss Piggy, and you and I remember what Miss Piggy looked like. I'm sorry, but who knew that anyone would ever want to look like Miss Piggy with the eyebrows and the hair and the eyelashes and the whole thing? And they go in there, and when they are paying her, they're like, oh, I've just got to wait for my money to come in from the government before I can pay you.
Yeah,
and
well,
these
also
are people getting this stuff done on us.
I know it's the working people who have to pay for people who don't work or people who are on benefits. So full-time working, hard-working taxpayers have to fund all these people. You see what I mean?
Kev, if these people were taking their children to do something educational, like go to the Tower of London or something, I might feel slightly better about it.
Yeah, someone said
that they're having their brows done. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. By the way, while you're on, Laura, I'm a trained observer. I can't help noticing that you're a woman. Perhaps you know what eyebrow microblading is, do you?
No. Okay. So it's like so, Kev, I can tell you this.
Okay, go on,
so
please.
If you're as you get a bit older, or if you're a bit blonde, like I am, it's like micro. Tattooing on your brows,
right?
Okay, and it just kind of fills in the bits as women get older, they get less hairy.
Okay,
and it just kind of fills in.
Okay,
a bit.
So that's what it is. Yeah, but anyway, that's one of the services.
Now you know.
I do know, thanks to you, Laura, and that's one of the services you can get on discount if you're on benefits. It is absolute madness. Really good to talk to you, though, Laura, and thank you for that important information. Laura from Wiltshire there. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages. Stay where you are.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for X's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a director of communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Peter Cardwell is back from his thoroughly well-deserved holiday, and we'll be joining you around about 7 o'clock and taking you through to 10 p.m. for another fantastic edition of the Evening Exchange. He'll be in the studio in a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment. In the meantime, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Darren in London. Hello, Darren.
Hi, Kevin. Just quickly, don't destroy me for this one, but I think Laura was trying to say that some of these attractions might be a bit too highbrow for some of these people.
I see. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, well said. Yeah, I get that. Mind you, by the way, I don't accept Laura's premise. You know, as I say, I seem to recall that something like 300,000 people have used these discounts over the past year. So there's definitely a big demand for them. And I don't necessarily think that being out of work makes you stupid. In fact, the more this government goes on with its policies of offering you massive discounts and all this money for not doing anything, maybe those of us who go to work are the stupid people. But there you are. You want to talk about
also, regardless, if you get discounts, people will go anyway, regardless.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You want to talk about the Greens anyway, Darren? What would you like to say?
I listened to what you were saying about Hannah Spence, and I heard the clip you played of her, and I thought, oh my days. I mean, she's playing to her audience, her voter base, but look, I mean, I remember being a salesman back in the day, in the sort of mid to late 90s, and we'd always take clients out for a pint at lunchtime. It was seen as a dumb thing. As time's gone on, you know, as we motored towards the 2010s, it's sort of been one of these things popping out for a pint at lunchtime. Even my old teachers used to do it. It doesn't happen. But what I would say is that I'm not a Philistine. Parliament's completely different. As your guest said earlier, they could be there at 8 o'clock in the morning and still be at 11. A lot of probably deals are done. Probably a lot of things are sorted out and talked about cross-party in the cabinet bar, in the Commons bar. And we know that Angela Rayner used to talk about quite openly about, you know, Tories and people she'd speak to and have a laugh with and a joke and take them or what have you. Yeah. So I think that what she's completely overlooked is the culture.
Yeah. Right? Also, Darren, you know, the thing is, she's acting like, oh, it's a massive issue. MPs getting drunk before they vote. It is not an issue. You know, MPs do not get drunk. I mean, now and again, the odd MP probably has one over the 8, you know, like in any other walk of life. But generally speaking, everybody knows we do not have a problem with MPs getting drunk and then voting on important national issues. She's making that up. It's incredibly puritanical, and I think that MPs, along with every other person in every other walk of life, you know, unless they're perhaps air traffic controllers or something like that, or train drivers or bus drivers, obviously they shouldn't be allowed to have a drink, but people working in banks or offices or whatever, you know, going out for a pint either at lunchtime or after work, let's not get puritanical about that. Why shouldn't they?
They're so pious.
Exactly. So sanctimonious, pious, halo polishing claptrap from her, from a party whereas they disapprove of alcohol, they're big on making heroin and crack legal. So Ms Spencer can frankly do one, Darren.
But she'll get a lot of them all sitting up and take notice of her. That's the thing, Kevin. We'll have a few bit of traction elsewhere.
Of course,
I listen to other channels, and you know, you'll discuss certain things. Like, for example, what Jeremy Carr, what Julia Hartley-Brewer was talking about with the the rapes and everything else. That doesn't get discussed anywhere else. I don't hear that anywhere else. And I think these are big issues.
People like Hannah Spencer want to divert us away from all that sort of thing. They don't want to talk about the migrant crisis. They just want to talk about letting migrants in. Darren, a really good call. Got to move on, but thank you for an excellent call. Call me again. Darren in London. Let's go to Robert in Hertfordshire. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Kev. I did want to. My point was about Keir Starmer, but just going back to the free Tower of London tickets, what were you getting? I mean, you've got to admit, a lot of people claiming benefits shouldn't be claiming them. All they're going to do is sell the tickets. I know people who've already sold their tickets.
They don't get them free. They're discounted. They've got to buy them. You mean they're going to buy the tickets for £1 and then sell them to a family for 50 quid or something?
Well, listen, you just quoted how much it was. It's gone down for 100 and something.
Well, no, I know. Well, they're not going to sell them full price, are they? They're going to say, if they're going to flog them on, they're going to give them half price or something. But I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's the case.
Well, I think you're being naive.
You're accusing people who are out of work of being fundamentally dishonest.
No, I'm accusing people who shouldn't be not out of work. I'm accusing people. There's a section of them who shouldn't be claiming benefit. That's the ones I'm talking about.
I'm with you there. But I don't think they're going to sell these tickets on. But I don't think they should get these discounts in the first place, because it's people who work, hard-working people, have to fund these discounts. So we're paying for it. Why? And why make the welfare lifestyle so attractive? It's mad, Robert. It's mad. Thank you for a good call. Call me again, Robert in Hertfordshire. Let's go to MG in Staffordshire. Hello, MG.
Hello, Kevin. You okay?
Yes, I am. Yes. What's MG stand for?
Oh, I try and keep myself a little bit anonymous on air. But anyway, can I just make a few points very, very quickly? Yes, I do.
You can make a few points anonymously. Go on then.
Okay, thanks.
Go on.
I'd just like to say, first of all, I don't agree with discounts for people on benefits, but we have to remember that. But we do have to remember that a lot of people who are on benefits are people who have worked for years. Some of them have actually been on very good income, and they've been made redundant because of the situation after COVID, and because there just are simply not enough jobs in lots of different
but it doesn't mean so they could get discounts for everything, does it?
Because I think what's happening, I'll tell you exactly what's happening. Since the Equality Act came in 2010, I think people are panicking. Now we're in a situation where, because of we've got to be more diverse, we've got to be fair and whatever, you've seen a lot of people employed in jobs who probably shouldn't be in them. Yep. Because people are scared of discrimination, whatever else. Now, because OAPs have had discounts for years, which is quite rightly so, they're older, they deserve it. Now, there's a feeling that everybody should have it. I do agree with what the caller said earlier on. People will just sell the tickets, because if you're short of money, that's what you're going to do. And regarding other things like Hannah, the Green MP as well, I think the world, again, this is another problem we've got, the world is full of know-alls. For everyone who thinks they know everything, and the people who don't know everything...
I think she's more than a know-all. She's a pious, sanctimonious virtue signaller.
Call me old-fashioned, Kev, but, there used to be a way in which politicians chose to dress smartly and so on. So I think you just got to look at the whole person and think, right, am I going to listen to this or am I not going to listen to this?
She dresses like a fruit salad, doesn't she? Ridiculous clothes.
Again, it's another example. A lot of people in jobs who probably shouldn't actually be in them. And I think the people who do know things and have got the experience, I don't know if you feel like this in your job, Kev, at all, but they're not consulted, they're not asked, because you're seen as being fuddy-duddy, you're seen as being past it, and especially once you start entering your 50s and your 60s, you become invisible to people. And I think that's the way that the world is going. And these people have got to learn, right, that one day they will need experienced people, they will need to listen to those people. They don't know everything, and they've still got a lot to learn.
Absolutely. I'm dreading it when I get to my 50s, but that's a long way off, MG. Thanks very much for an excellent call. Call me again, MG in Staffordshire. Let's quickly talk to Ian in London. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Kev. Kev, what I want to know is Starmer completely a Fruit Loops cake, that he actually thinks he can actually get back into power? Because the only way he'll be doing that is by sort of getting the Greens or the Liberal Democrats and everybody else, but they can't stand him either.
It's like I said earlier, Ian, you know, to an extent, when you're the Prime Minister, when you're a party leader or a senior politician, your whole life is campaigning for yourself. Whether or not you're in power or you're seeking power, you're always seeking approval. So I understand why Keir Starmer did that interview with the Sunday Times. But he should have been a lot more careful about what he said, because to sit there and say, you know, I will still be here at the next general election and I can win that election. I mean, on the off chance that Labour even stand a scintilla of chance at that election, that scintilla will disappear if Keir Starmer's still in charge. The idea that that guy can win the next election is for the birds. It's insane.
Maybe the thing is, if he feels that he can win it, why doesn't he say, right, you vote for whoever you want tomorrow, no more sort of doing the whip on Labour vote, on Labour MPs. Let them vote. If he doesn't get through that vote, he calls a general election and let's see it. Call his bluff.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. I mean, I think he's in for a, shall we say, well, he's in for a difficult day tomorrow for a kick-off. Morgan McSweeney's testimony to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, and then the debate in Parliament on sleaze, whether or not he should be referred to the Privileges Committee or the for allegedly lying to the House. So he's got a very sticky wicket tomorrow, but going forward in the weeks to come, I think that wicket is going to turn into pure quicksand. Ian, good call. Thank you very much. Call me again. Ian in London, and he's back from his